The Dukes of Dice are brought to you by Arcane Wonders and tasty Minstrel games. Check out all their awesome products at arcanewonders.com and playtmg.com.
Welcome to the Duchy. It's time for another episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network.
Coming to you from the Duchy in the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's the Dukes of Dice, a podcast about boards, cards, and occasionally the odd role-playing game. Today, the Dukes are joined by us, Aaron and Quinten from the Boards Live podcast. We review Z-Man games, A Feast for Odin. Then we look back at the Dukes' review of Booze Barons in our Dukes Double-Take. Finally, we talk about retheming board games as suggested by you, the listeners. And now, the Dukes of Dice.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Sean.
And Aaron.
And Quinten.
Hey, welcome, fellas. Boards Alive. How are you doing?
Good. The snow's melted, so we're happy.
Yeah, it's all gone. Woo! Actually, no, it's not all gone.
It's not all gone, but it's mostly gone.
It's kind of nice now. We're on spring break. Woo, spring break!
Spring break! Shirts off!
You guys talking about snow because you are from the Great White North, from Canada. Isn't that correct, sirs?
The greatest, whitest of nope, that was wrong.
Wow.
We're from Canada.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
just from Canada, just normal. We're just normal Canadians.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to have some ground rules for you in a little bit, but first, let's get into the episode proper. This is episode 136, Strange BrUwe, suggested by Patrick Hillier over on our Board Game Geek Guild. Can you explain that title for us?
Yeah, so there's a wonderful Bob and Doug McKenzie movie. SCTV was a TV show back in the olden times.
Was it the 80s?
Sure.
Yeah.
And there was a segment with two characters. It's kind of like Saturday Night Live, but
Canadian.
More Canadian.
Yeah.
And they had these two guys, Bob and Doug McKenzie, which were Rick Moranis and that other guy.
Yeah.
Doug something? No. Dave Thomas. Dave Thomas.
Yeah,
there we go.
It's the Wendy's guy.
Yeah.
But they did a thing where they were like quintessential Canadians, and they're like, "Oh, take off, you hosiery."
No dude about it.
And then they drank beer and stuff. And so then they had a movie called Strange Brew, which was fairly mediocre.
Yeah, wildly mediocre.
Yeah. The sketches were better.
But the legacy lives on.
And, of course, we're talking about A Feast for Odin, designed by the one, the only Uwe Rosenberg, so Strange BrUwe makes perfect sense. And if any of you want to get in on this episode title naming competition that is fierce every week, head on over to Guild 2008. But real quick, guys, I do want to welcome you. So for those that may not be familiar with you, Boards Alive, what do you guys talk about over there? We
talk about board games and card games and more often than you, role-playing games.
All right. Settle down.
We try to focus on the thematic in board games and how that meshes with the mechanical side. We do silly voices. We do overviews instead of rules explanations. We do a stupid skit that we write that is usually fairly childish in nature, with some bang sound effects and like bad backing tracks. Actually,
and
good
terrible accents.
Terrible accents. Yes, my wife told me the other day on our latest episode that I only have one accent, and all of them just sprout from that bad accent.
That's love.
It's the top of the family tree of accents.
Yeah, it's trickle down accent theory. We're getting political.
Well, gentlemen, I love your show and I listen to it regularly.
Thank you.
And while I think you guys provide some amazing board game content, because there are a lot of shows out there that can spout nonsense, and you guys spout nonsense with the best of them, but you have great content along with it. A lot of board game content. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. We, not to just give each other internet hugs, but we also love you. I went on record on your show, on your guild, saying that you were my top pick for podcast of the year. So You guys are fantastic. I miss Alex, but you've done a fantastical job with all of the fill-ins and the other media people and the great people you have down in Albuquerque.
The hop-ons, if you will, because you're going to get some hop-ons.
You're going to get some hop-ons. You can't do anything about it.
I feel like I haven't made an Arrested reference in a while. But anyway, so, gentlemen, I'm very happy to have you here, but our shows are a little bit different. So I wanted to kind of acclimate you to the way we do things over here in the Duchy. Is that all right? Can I do that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so bear with me. Settle in, grab a beer or whatever.
You didn't even need to say that.
We're already 2 in.
Aaron, Quinten, my friends from the north, with the two of you being gracious enough to appear on the Dukes of Dice, I wanted you to make yourself at home here in the Duchy. Towards that end, I've included a scripted portion of the show, so it'll feel just like you're back on your show. It's important to note that here on the Dukes of Dice, we enjoy a certain level of decorum and professionalism. So with that goal in mind, I wanted to establish some ground rules so that our time together is enjoyable for all and especially orderly for our listeners. So the ground rules are as follows. You guys still with me?
Yeah, I'm very scared right now.
Okay. Ground rule the first.
Is this like a black tie event? Like, do I need to dress up for
I
this?
hope so.
Or?
I'm actually wearing my flip the table. I'm wearing my flip the table shirt. It's in honor of Alex and also the passing of flip the table.
Yes. So, ground rule the first, gentlemen. While toilet humor has its place among the hoi polloi, we here at the Dukes of Dice aim a little bit higher. So, while in the Duchy, please refrain from the pee-pee and poo-poo jokes as much as possible.
Fine.
I guess so. I'm sorry. You as a lawyer making the comment as much as possible in there. That's a loophole right there, my friend.
You're asking for trouble.
Sure, that's fine. I'm giving you guys some artistic license here. Rule number 2, the Duchy is in the United States. We do not speak the Queen's English here. So please make sure that whenever you use a word such as color, which King George added superfluous U's to, please make sure you pronounce it without the U. So just to be clear, gents, instead of saying color, say color. Do you hear the difference?
Yeah,
Color?
It's
No.
color.
Color, not color.
Color.
Color, not
Oh, wait,
color.
I got it. Color?
Yeah, color.
Is that good?
That's perfect.
Excellent.
Number 3, the Canadian interjection A is particularly grating to non-Canadian ears. I can't expect you to rid yourself of that verbal crutch altogether. Accordingly, I will permit you to use it 3 times each, but 3 times and no more. Any more than that, and I will edit you out of the episode completely.
Are you going to count? Like, is there going to be like a ding for every time we say it?
We don't do dings here.
You're welcome.
Rule number 4.
And now I just threw him off his groove.
Rule number 4. I realize that it's nearly impossible for you Canadians to not eat Tim Hortons donuts at every opportunity. But please refrain from eating Tim Hortons on the air unless you've brought enough to share with the listeners. I think that's fair.
I'll be honest, I already ate my donuts today.
Yeah, I had my daily allotment from my doctor.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Get it out of the system. Okay, finally, number 5. There's not
What
really
about
17.
Timbits? Can I have Timbits?
I only know about that thanks to fellow Canadian Rodney Smith. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
They're
that's
donut holes, and they're about the same as the Dunkin' Donut holes.
It's a loophole. It's a loophole. It's fine. Okay. Number 5. Finally, Aaron, your lovely bride Lindsay, is my arch gaming nemesis. She is hereby banned from the Dukes of Dice. Should she decide to drop in, Boards Alive will be met with considerable censure from the Dukes of Dice and the rest of the Dice Tower network as a whole. So, all of that said, in short, welcome and have a great show.
You're lucky that we're recording at Quinten's house and not my house, or Lindsay would 100% be yelling right now.
I could bring Cherie in here, but she'd be far more restrained, I think.
And respectful.
Yeah, probably. Does Cherie hate Castles of Burgundy?
Yes, because she doesn't like playing games all that much.
If she's ambivalent, that's fine.
Nah, she would never play it with me. But she would. Do you know what? She wouldn't get all her uptightness if you sent me a copy. Just saying.
You have a copy. What the heck? Sean, once again, I do thank you for the free copy of Castles of Burgundy that you sent to my house. It was a huge middle finger to my wife, and I enjoyed it immensely.
That was the best thing ever.
It was so good.
Totally worth it. It's a sin. It's a crime. It's terrible. It's terrible that, I mean, she practically put her foot down and said, "You, sir, may not own Castles of Burgundy."
Yeah, it's crazy. She made her bed.
And you made her sleep in it, Sean.
Fair enough. All right. So with those rules in mind, guys, I think we're ready to do this episode, right?
We're officially allowed into the theme park of Dukes of Dice.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds good, eh?
That's one. All right.
First mention.
So guys, let's talk about some recent plays, shall we?
Let's.
Sure. All right. Well, let me kick things off here with actually technically maybe not an actual board game, and by that I mean it's totally not. It's actually on the computer, PS4, Xbox, whatever thing.
It's on the Vidya games.
It's technically a Vidya game that you use your phone for. I was actually invited. Lindsay and I were invited to our friend's house the other day, and we played with 8 other people the Jackbox games, which are essentially the 2000 whatever 15, 16, 17 version of You Don't Know Jack, which you may have played if you were younger.
It was the box with the bald dude on it, right?
Yeah, totally. The Jackbox games that we played were Drawful and Fibbage. Drawful meaning that you draw and it's awful. And yeah, that's how I rocked that party. Because how the game works is that it's kind of like Pictionary, but everyone's has their personal device, and so everyone gets sent like a title or a phrase that they have to draw. So the first one I got was horse with seatbelts, and then with your fat finger like mine,
you're big old sausage man,
just a sausage, you have to draw that picture. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I am atrocious at this.
You might as well just taking a farmer sausage and drag it around.
Okay, here's what it looked like. It looked like the horse looked pretty good. I did a smile. The horse was happy.
From a scale of 1 to Godfather, how was it?
It was not dead and in your bed, so
that's good. That's 1. A great start.
And then it was. I got to the seatbelt part, and so I started doing one seatbelt, and then I did another. And the problem with this game is you can't erase anything. So what ended up happening is it actually. I started drawing it, and I was like, "Oh, this looks okay," and I put an arrow to it, and then I tried to add something, and when I pushed on it, it looked like an eyeball. So that all of a sudden this seatbelt clip that I've made now looks like a person riding the horse. And that is absolutely not what I was trying to convey.
Did you go over the shoulder or just waist?
It was like 2 danglies kind of sticking up out of the horse. I know. I'm not a good drawer.
Do you know how seatbelts work?
I know, but they but not on a
form
horse.
To your body.
I know, but a horse, and no, I grew up in an age where there was just a lap belt. So how it works is then everybody draws their picture, and then the game randomly mixes up the pictures, and then they put it up on the screen, and everyone has to write down what they think it is. So they write down a phrase that represents the picture, and then once everybody's submitted it, it goes up on the board, and then you have to pick one of those options.
So everyone drew something different.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so everyone drew something different, and then one picture goes up, and everyone titles that picture, and then they all go up, and you have to vote on which one you think is the real one, and you get points if people picked your fake answer, and you get more points if you were the drawer and people actually got it. So you're supposed to try and help people draw things well. So it's like
Telestrations with Balderdash.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, that makes sense because you're drawing a picture, but then you're trying to fake people out. It was pretty good. I liked it.
It sounds entertaining. That sounds like a good drinking game, to be honest.
It worked out well. I won both games that I played because I'm really good at games, I guess. I don't know. Even though
those who can't draw get points other ways.
I was really good at faking other people into guessing my phrases for things, which I was pretty happy with. And then the Fibbage game we played really quickly right before we had to go home because I had a babysitter looking after my children. It was my mom, and we needed to get home and be respectful.
Mom.
Thanks, Mom. You're the best. She's not going to listen to this though, Sean. Sorry.
Oh man, she's totally in our demographic too.
Yeah, totally. 60-plus-year-old women
Who don't play board games? Yeah.
because she couldn't listen to our show because she would
She'd
come
be
to my
sad
house
for
and
her
be
son.
so sad. She'd call me crying and be like, "What have you done?"
Where did I go wrong raising you?
Anyways, Fibbage is a mediocre version of Balderdash where they give you like a sentence with a blank in it, and then you have to put the blank in, and then everyone guesses which one is the blank. It was not as good. Drawful was more entertaining.
Drawful actually sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was actually solid. I definitely think like it's, I don't know, you can get it on Steam or PS4 or whatever, so it's probably cheap. Just everyone needs to have a device. So
Which is never tough.
that's true. We do live in a technological age.
Does Fibbage, so I'm guessing Fibbage has absolutely no relation to cribbage?
No, it's
I was thinking of making that joke. Like, is it crib where you lie a lot, or
no, it's straight up, it's just you're fibbing. But I think that comes with like a bunch of games in each set. So it's worth checking
you just
out.
buy like a pack?
Yeah, totally.
Gotcha.
It's got to be like, I don't know, $5. I didn't actually do my research because why would I do research when I do a podcast?
Someone else's show, they can deal with it.
Have you played this, Sean?
No, I have not played it. I have not played it at all. Well, that was a really dismissive
how you added
response. Come on. I'm very busy, guys. I don't have time for this nonsense.
I'm running a podcast. I'm a very important person. Also, I'm a very busy lawyer, which is a pretty busy job in the first place.
I have a day book.
No, I haven't. I haven't played this. What? So it's available on Steam and Xbox
I think so.
And Nintendo Switch.
I don't know if it's on the Switch. I would doubt
No,
it
I don't
because Nintendo's very like proprietary. Why don't you talk about a board game?
It's my turn now. I see that I have the number 2. So, my cousin recently had shoulder surgery. He lives out in...
We were going to talk about board games. What the
I'm going to talk about Operation Leave Me Alone. Now, so he has shoulder surgery. He's at home with his parents. He lives out of town, and he's been super bored because he's a carpenter and obviously can't do his job while he heals. And so he's like, Quinten, I want to play board games. I'm like, you came to the right place. So he's not a humongous gamer. He's pretty enthusiastic, and he likes learning new stuff. But you kind of need to pick and choose, just, so you don't scare him away. And so I pulled out Port Royal the other day with him. And this is a game by Alexander Pfister, and it's a nice push your luck card game where you are drawing cards on your turn and trying not to bust, gaining money, and then using that money to buy people that do stuff for you.
Yeah.
Not in a slavery way.
Can you please
hire people.
That's the word you're
Hire
looking-
people
Yes.
to work for you for a reasonable wage. So anyways, and you're getting points. It's
And
a good...
the first person to 13
Yeah.
or something, right?
Yes, it is has that race aspect to it where you're trying to be the first one to get to 13 points. And I always find that it's quite tight, where if one person's at 13, someone else is like right there as well.
And the game doesn't immediately end when you get to 13.
No. If you need to end the turns, like the round of turns, so everyone has the same number of turns, and you need to be the one with the highest number of points if you're at a tie for 13. So I really like it because you can get a bit of an engine going with the people that you hire. They give you an ability that will continue for the rest of the game. Sometimes you're just getting a symbol that you can cash in for a quest that will occasionally pop up, and that will get you points and some money. Sometimes they'll give you cool abilities like being able to claim extra cards, getting money for just pushing your luck far enough, getting cheaper cards. It's tons of stuff. You know what? I really like it for just like a small box kind of card game. I enjoy it more than Oh My Goods, which is also an Alexander Pfister game. And I just find it's a little cleaner and a little tighter. What did you guys think of it?
Oh, I love it. I think Port Royal is fantastic. I had a first initial play at 5 players. This was a couple of years ago, and it kind of was pretty rough. It was pretty terrible, but I'm glad I gave it. I mean, this was before Alexander Pfister was kind of on my radar. And then I'm like, okay, Matthew's like, you need to give it another shot. But I've played it again multiple times since then. I like it at 5 now, just fine, as long as everyone's kind of played before. But I think like 3, 4 is probably the sweet spot. I do have the expansion, which I'm blanking on the names, on the name
It's
of it.
German. It's It's something that it's like as fast as
Nailed it.
I hope I did not offend anyone there.
You just swore at everybody in German.
But yeah, no, I think it's fantastic.
I was actually looking at the expansion today on Board Game Bliss, and I was like, do I want to add this to my cart? Man. I did just buy Great Western Trail. Yeah.
Nice.
I
Sorry, go ahead.
actually picked it up from a listener from Damian Perry. He had a copy of it at Dice Tower Con last year, and he was like, "Hey, I know you like Port Royal. You interested?" And he gave me a smoking deal on it. So, but ein Auftrag geht noch.
Yeah. See, I was close.
Yeah,
I was super close. Have you tried the new, there's like a standalone expansion that it's like supposedly streamlines some things, and it's got a ship on the cover. And
it streamlines Port Royal?
I was super
What is there
confused.
to streamline?
I was super confused by that. But yeah, I'm interested to know if that's good or not.
I have no idea. I am not familiar with that.
So this could all be hearsay.
No, it's not. I've seen it on Board Game Bliss. Stop it.
So yeah, I mean, you originally got
good.
it.
Yes, I like it.
I liked it so much that I bought it, and that doesn't happen very often when
double up on games.
we double up
it's
on
a
games.
good one to have both of us have, though, because it's just good to have when other people want it around.
It's an easy one to teach. I've taught it to friends who are like novice gamers. I've taught it to my parents. Like it's great stuff. Highly recommend Port Royal.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about Utopia Engine. This was actually, it's a print and play, and Travis Hill a couple weeks ago was on the podcast, and he mentioned this because we were kind of talking about some print and play stuff. And so I said, you know what, I'm gonna give this a shot. So if you go to BGG, you can just download the file. It's like 3 pages. It's also available on nevermoregames.com. Nevermore did Dark Dealings, which is really good. They did Spires by T.C. Petty, which I backed on Kickstarter. It's going to be available at some point. But Utopia Engine, in this, you play an old artificer named Isidros, who's attempting to reconstruct the Utopia Engine, a fabled device from the distant past and possibly the only hope for averting the fast-approaching doomsday. You must recover the machine's 6 parts from 6 dangerous regions and assemble the Utopia Engine before the world ends. The game uses simple dice mechanics to simulate searching the wilderness, activating and assembling powerful artifacts, and combat with artifact weapons. This game is really cool. Like I said, it's 3 pages. There's 1 page that's kind of a low ink version of the other 2 pages. And then the other 2 pages, if you just want to kind of have the full artsy version, there's 1 page that's all of these different post-apocalyptic regions that you're searching. And then another page, which is your workshop, where you're trying to reassemble these various parts. So it's pretty simple. You're going to these 6 different regions and you're trying to find these missing parts by rolling these 2 dice at a time. So every time you search, you're trying to fill in these 3 boxes. It's 3 across and then 2 down. And so when I roll these D6s, say I roll a 3 and a 4, I can put them in whichever of those 6 boxes I want. What I'm trying to do is set it up so that once I subtract the bottom number from the top number, it's as close to 0 as possible. If it's within 10, I discover one of the pieces I'm looking for. If it is anything above 10, I have to do a monster encounter and I have to fight a monster and hopefully not die, which I died a lot. I've played this 3 times and I kept dying a lot the first 2 times. I haven't beat this game yet. It's really frustrating, but it's really cool. So you do that, and then you may not quite be successful, and you pick up some of the different, there's like silver and silicate. Silicate? Yeah, silicate. Silicon? Silicate.
It's like basically sand.
Yeah, it's sand.
It's either that or microchips.
It's definitely not microchips, because this is like kind of not steampunk. What's like less than steampunk?
Like
Steam rock and roll.
Steam.
That was a terrible joke.
Steam New Wave?
New Wave, yeah. No, punk came before New Wave.
Yeah. Steam Beatles Invasion? Sorry. I'm sorry. That wasn't my A material. I'll workshop it. I'll come back. It'll be good.
So anyway, you're finding these artifacts, and then you're going to try and activate these artifacts, which uses a different dice rolling mechanism. And when you activate an artifact, you're able to get some sort of special ability. And then eventually, when you find multiple artifacts, you're trying to link them together to create this Utopia engine, which is going to save the day. But the more you're searching, the more time takes place, and the closer you are to approaching Doomsday. So I kept dying. I'm terrible at this game. I feel like there's some basic like math strategy that I'm just not grasping, and I'm continually fighting monsters and getting my butt kicked by these monsters. And it's all really simple. It's all done with 2 dice. So like, for example, fighting a monster, depending on how bad you failed the search attempt, will determine the level of monster you face. And also depending on your region. Yeah. So if you're off by
like a punishment?
It is, because you're just terrible at this game. So like an easy monster says, if either of your dice is a 1, you take a wound. But if you roll a 5 or 6, it kills it. So if I roll like 1 and a 6, I take a wound and I kill the monster. But if I roll 1-1, then I just take 2 wounds and I have to keep fighting until I've killed this monster. So I can keep just rolling like Snake Eyes and just get my butt kicked. But like some of the monsters get harder, so maybe now it's on a 1 or a 2 you take a wound, or a 6 is what's required to kill it. And then some of the more advanced monsters will like drop certain items. It's just amazing how much this game does with just 2 dice. It's really cool. So I really recommend it. It's called Utopia Engine. Go to BGG and check it out. It takes like 30 minutes to play.
It's not bad at all.
Yeah, it's really cool. So that's Utopia Engine.
All right. Well, the second game that I wanted to talk about is probably in my top 5 games of all time, and that's Through the Ages, a new story of civilization. I have a friend here in town that's part of the gaming group in Kelowna proper that I occasionally get a chance to game with, and he's been wanting to play this game for a while, and I finally had an opportunity to have him over. So we busted it out, and I taught the game to him in a fairly reasonable time frame. He's a pretty good, experienced gamer, so it was nice to be able to explain things and kind of leave gaps that he was able to he just knew. Like, I didn't have to go over every little bit, because there's a fair amount going on in this game, because you've got, you're building these like resource generating buildings that you can upgrade constantly over the game, and you've got all these urban buildings that are going to produce like happiness and science and victory points, or whatever the harp actually is called. I mean, for one of my favorite games, I should know the terms.
It's the Happy Tunes place.
Yeah, they're playing beautiful music, because rock and roll will always make you be
Soothe
more
the soul?
victorious. No, because the happy faces are different.
Yeah,
That's just religion. Religion makes people convinced, and murder, because like the bread and circuses and all and pro sports, that all makes people happy. Anyways, I'm not going to explain the game, because it's essentially a civilization building game that has no board. It's all cards, and it's essentially a giant engine builder, which if you've ever, Quinten's getting his happy face on, because if you've ever listened to our show, you know that Quinten and I love engine building games. And so this one, it gave me all of what I wanted in a civilization game, and I don't have to deal with like the actual tactical movement side of things.
Without the bloat.
Yeah, I know that lots of people love like Civilization and those kinds of games, and I just am okay without having to like maneuver troops around the board and just kind of be like, hey, I have an army of 20. That's pretty
Out
good,
in
right?
The ether.
Bring it on. And I kind of like that it's a Cold War type of military situation, instead of just like a straight up, I'm going to move into your territory and punch you until you bleed. So I love this game. The problem is that it's a 4-hour game.
Oh yeah.
Long.
Because I have small children, we didn't get to start gaming. Oh, and also my daughter, we put her in a big girl bed. So like that happened on Tuesday. So that's been days of,
her wandering the halls.
Yeah, I'd be like, get back to bed, child. And so it was hard to get going, but we did finish around 12:30, and I had to work the next morning, so that was a thing. And then my daughter woke me up at 5 the next morning, so that was also
a thing.
Exhausting, but it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. Chris really enjoyed it. Brendan, our friend Brendan, was there as well. Brendan dominated. I actually really didn't do much science, which totally screwed me. I was in it for most of the game, and then when like the last age was kind of wrapping up, I just started getting steamrolled, and I loved it though. But the interesting thing that was kind of weird was that my friend Chris, his wife came with him, but she was not in the mood to play. Like, she was kind of intimidated by the massiveness of this game. And so she sat there and hung out with us for 4 hours.
You're lucky that she's such like a happy-go-lucky person.
It was actually cool. And Lindsay, my wife, came down and hung out. She actually was supposed to go out for date night and came home really early. And so we all kind of sat around and talked. And Brendan the next day was like, it was really interesting how much talking we had during this like super not thinky, but like, you know, I mean, it's a level 4 game on BGG. So it's pretty in depth, your decisions that you're making. And yet we were sitting around talking. They actually work with the Shut Up and Sit Down guys. So we were talking about like the Kickstarter that Shut Up and Sit Down's running and talking about like what they've been up to, because they just got married and we hadn't seen them since before the wedding, and all sorts of conversations that were taking place around the table around this massive 4-hour game that took place. By the end of it, I was like, Brendan, can you just like assign your dudes, because this game needs to end.
Let's get this rolling here.
Because he ended up beating me by like 70 points. He scored the most points He scored the most points I've ever seen in this game. Like,
How many points?
He got 100. The track goes to 150, right? So he got 150, and then I think he was on the bottom row, so that's another 100. So he was like 250 something in the game, and I was like, oh my goodness, you dominated me. Because I think I got like 170. I got around the board at least once, but it was just a beatdown, and I was like, yeah, it's time for sleepy times. Aaron's got to work one more day before spring break. I need to survive tomorrow. Kids are going to be crazy. So yeah, Through the Ages, I love this game. Even at 12:30 in the morning when I'm getting my butt kicked, I still was like, yeah, this game's great. I love it.
Have you played
now
online?
I need to go to bed.
Have you played online?
No, because I really have realized that I hate...
Hate's such a strong word.
No, I really do though. I hate
strongly
the back and forth. What's the one?
Asynchronous.
Asynchronous. I hate asynchronous play. I played a game of El Grande with Patrick Hillier, and I just couldn't remember what I was ever doing, and he beat me by like 20 points. And the last time we played, he and I played a game of El Grande. I speak French, not Spanish. El Grande before the the Christmas break, and he and I played like live, and I did well with that one, and then I just sucked at this. Anyways, asynchronous is
that sounds like a whole bunch of whining right there.
Hate it so much.
I feel like Through the Ages, though, is like really well suited for asynchronous play, because I feel like even when I'm playing in real life, I'll be like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Oh, wait, no, let me take that back. Oh, wait, here's what I'm going to do. And I do that like 5 times. And so at least if I'm playing it online, you never actually have to like sit through me being like, oh, crap, now I have corruption. Let me redo that. Oh, crap, now I'm like, I have unhappiness. Let me deal with that. Yeah, I like it online a lot, but that's just me. And I'm cool, so.
So listen to Sean, because he's cooler than me.
To be fair, he has his own show. All the cool kids have that.
Don't we have... Oh, so we're cool too, because we also have... Yeah, cool. Sorry, go ahead. Hey, Quinten, what's another one that you want to talk about now?
Are you just like stealing Sean's thunder? Like,
you're
Sean,
running would
the
you
show.
like to segue this?
Hey.
I mean, I did do a bunch of the show notes when you didn't do them.
He's just stepping on your feet. Are you going to take that from him, Sean?
That's fine. I mean, because at least it's in a polite way, you know? So it's totally cool. So, Quinten, question for you. Is there yet another game that you, Quinten, want to talk about?
You know what? There is another game that I, Quinten, want to talk about.
That's crazy.
I know, right? So I'm going to do that right now, forthwith. So I'm going to keep on the teaching people games train here with my cousin.
Choo-choo.
And his shoulder surgery. Yeah. So not teach you, no, sorry.
No, choo-choo.
Oh, choo-choo. I was like, anyway. So Stone Age. I taught him Stone Age because I really want to get him on the strategy train here, if we're going to go back to the trains. And I figured Stone Age is a great way to kind of introduce that to him. It's a pretty straightforward worker placement game where you are cavemen, which, I mean, they're not high intelligence, so it's great. That's perfect.
So it
That's
correlates
great for
to
me.
This man's low intelligence.
No, mine.
Oh,
Mine.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's really good. You're cavemen and you're trying to build up your caveman-ness, and you are collecting resources with the group of workers that you have, and you're going to convert those resources into civilization, I guess. They're called civilization cards, so that's what they are, Aaron. Stop shaking your head, you jerk.
What they produce is not civilization. It's huts and like maybe some tools.
Yes, the cards are called civilization. Just give this to me, Aaron. Just let it. Okay, you know what? Just stop. So you can get these cards that are civilization cards, Aaron, and they will give you game end scoring points, which is great. You can combo those up and do some really awesome stuff. Or you can buy buildings, which are points up front. So you kind of have this kind of balance of, do I want to just get the points right now, which will trigger the end game? The buildings will trigger the end game. Or do I want to go for the points that can potentially, hopefully, get me points at the end of the game, if I can use them wisely? There's also some other things that you can do, like growing your agriculture to help feed all your little cave people, or yep, that's the motion Aaron is making, hut.
It's the family time hut.
Yep, exactly.
The family making.
And there's only one hut there. Like, it must just...
must smell bad.
Real bad. Or you can go make tools. There's a joke in there somewhere. Somewhere. And I'm not going to go searching for it. You know, I really, really enjoy this game. Stone Age is a great, just intro-level worker placement game. It has a very nice, fluid progression throughout the game of gathering your resources to using those resources that seems really logical and makes a lot of sense and is fairly easy for people to grasp. You can see kind of how the progression of the game goes, this is how I get points. This is perfect. And it turned out really, really well. He really enjoyed the game. Partway through, he was like, so, like, this is it? And then by the end of the game, he's like, man, I really, really want to buy this game. It's really nice when you see that, like, you see it click, and they're like, oh yeah, I like that. This is good.
I like Stone Age. I think
Stone Age is good.
Yeah, I think it's a good entry weight, gateway worker placement game. I would never think to bring it out with my regular group of friends, but as far as, you know, a new gamer or someone that's new on game night, and you want to kind of introduce them to these strategy games, I think it's solid. I think it's really good. I've probably played it more. I've definitely played it more on my iPad than I have in real life, though. I think I've played it maybe twice in real life, and I've probably played it like 30 times on the iPad.
How is the app version? I haven't played it on the app.
It's good. I think it's really solid. It makes some interesting choices where it's not just like mechanically it's a port of the game, but visually it has some interesting choices where it doesn't just feel like you're just playing on the cardboard board.
Does it have like background music when you play?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
And does that music change when you produce a new worker?
It does not, in fact. I'll have to recall, but I don't think it does.
That's too bad.
It's a missed opportunity.
That seems like a missed opportunity.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh dear. Please talk about another game, Sean.
Well, before I talk about the last recent play, I do want to say that it's emblematic of the shenanigans that the Boards Alive crew brings. Because in our show notes, I had these spots for these recent plays, and someone, Quinten, was it Quinten?
Every time. He does this to me live while we're doing our show.
I figure it was Quinten. And so in my recent plays, my first one was Michael Bolton, and my next one was Snorting Mountains of Cocaine.
You got to draw it out though. Like I multiple
mountains of cocaine. Oh boy. So many regrets, which is a reference to the Lonely Island video, Captain Jack Sparrow,
which I also linked to the notes.
You did, and I'm like, oh yeah, I love that. That's hilarious. So go check that out.
Captain Jack Sparrow.
And then in turn, I asked you guys to review a Kickstarter so we could talk about it on the show, and it was simply a Rickroll. So
yeah, and you got me good. You got me good.
I got you, but I didn't get Aaron because it showed a preview of it in Twitter.
Yeah.
I
use Phoenix for Twitter, so it didn't give me the preview. It let me down. I paid money for you, app, and you did me bad.
So the last game I'll talk about is Matryoshka. Let me spell that for you. It's Matryoshka, And this was published in Europe by White Goblin Games, and it's being brought over here in a Kickstarter next month from Terra Nova Games. So they did Trick of the Rails recently.
Which we just
So
talked
good.
about. We just
So
talked about it on our
good.
show. It's very good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's super good. And then they also did Farspace Foundry. Matryoshka is really interesting. This was a pre-production copy that I got. I'm going to be doing a Kickstarter preview video in the next week or two. And it is a trading set collection game where there are a certain number of suits. There's 7 suits, and they range from 1 to 7. And they're these little Matryoshkas, which are those Russian nesting dolls. And so
gotcha. Okay,
You didn't know that, eh? I knew that.
now.
I'm smart. I knew that one.
What is a Matryoshka?
So the
Yeah.
1 in each suit is a little baby nesting doll, but the 7 is the big nesting doll. And I don't know what this has to do with Matryoshkas. I mean, it's just it's cute. The art's really cool. But anyway, the mechanics of this are you're trying to collect runs of the same suit and multiples of the same value. And they can score for both. So if I have 1, 3, 4, 5 of the dark green, and then I also have multiple 3s and different suits, I'm going to get to score for all of that. At the end of the game, I'm going to have 13 cards in play, and I add up my columns, I add up my rows, and whoever has the most points is the winner. But it's a really different mechanic as far as how you're collecting these. So everyone starts with 6 cards, and of those 6 cards, they're going to lay 2 up in front of them to kind of give the rest of the table some information. So maybe I put my red 3 up and I put my red 4 up so that people know, hey, look, he's trying to collect this run of these red cards. So maybe they want to incentivize me to make a certain trade because they know they're going to be able to give me that 2 or that 5. So what's going to happen once everyone sets their 2 cards up simultaneously, we all draw 2 new cards. So we always have a hand of 6 cards and then a certain number of cards on the table. Now, in turn order, one at a time, I'm going to reveal a single card from my hand that I have to give in trade to one of the other players. The other 3 players, or I don't know why I said 3, because I played it in 4 players all the times I played it. Anyway, the other players have to secretly show me one card that they're going to trade for it. Everyone has to be willing to trade. And so someone gives me, or says, hey, here's that red 2 you wanted, because they really want the card that I'm showing them. And so I go, yeah, I'll make that trade with you. So it's interesting. It's kind of this secret information, and it's a matter of, well, do you want the card that I have? And if so, do you have something that I want to trade for it? So we do that. We all go around making one trade each. Then the next round begins. And this time, instead of laying down 2 cards, we have to lay down 4 cards. And then we each draw new cards. The next round, we do 6 cards and then 8 cards. So we progressively are giving each other more and more information. It's 4 rounds. We're doing this one trade. We each get the chance to trade. I don't know, does this sound convoluted? Does this sound hard to follow? I feel like it's hard to follow.
Yeah, a little.
Okay, so let me just say this. It's really good. It's incredibly good. So hopefully it'll be more clear in a video format. It definitely took a while to kind of wrap my head around it. Sometimes, the first game, we were all trying to hide our information, but then we realized, no, we want people to know what we're trying to collect because it's going to incentivize them to make certain trades. So we'll, like I said, there'll be more on this. I think it's early April. This is going to hit Kickstarter. The art's really cool. It's going to be a really good price point. It's a really solid game. I like it a lot, and definitely keep an eye out for it on Kickstarter next month. So
This is making me kind of think of Bonanza.
Yeah, I was totally gonna ask how similar, because you've got that
the card trading.
card trading and that kind of
Yes.
idea, and you want people to know what you want and that
Yes.
kind of thing.
So Bonanza has more of an open-ended negotiation. And let me say, I love Bonanza. I think Bonanza's fantastic. But what's different about this is it's the secret trading, right? But both games you have forced trading. You have to make a trade, right? The secret trading makes it a little bit better. I think this is better than Bonanza. And I love Bonanza.
That is a bold statement right there.
Yeah. At first I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. I don't get it. And then by the second play, did we play the third time that night? I think we did. It's really good. It's excellent. It's really, truly excellent. So I hadn't even made the Bonanza connection, but yeah, it absolutely is in a similar vein to Bonanza. Also by Uwe Rosenberg. Hey, look at that.
Yeah. It's my favorite. No, sorry, I'm not going to make that statement right now.
It's like we're about to segue it for you there, Sean.
Hey, speaking of Uwe games, let's head over to our review. I guess that'll do it for our recent plays. So that was Matryoshka from Terra Nova Games.
Nailed it.
Hey everybody, I am joined by Dominic Huang from Medieval Lord Games. Dominic, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Sean. Great.
Well, so you've got a Kickstarter, and when this episode drops, there's going to be, I think, 3 days left before it ends. It's called Castle Dukes, and right away I perk up because it's got Dukes in the title. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that, but first I just want to give you a chance to kind of let the listeners know, who you are as a gamer, who you are as a designer. So how did you start out with gaming in general?
Well, long story short, I guess I can just tell you that I've been designing games for more than 15 years, and it's a variety of different things that includes video games. It's not just all tabletop. We do games for PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Facebook even. I guess it's quite a mixture in there. But when I decided to strike out on my own, that's when Medieval Lords was born, and it's purely tabletop focused.
And so right now, how many titles has Medieval Lords published?
Well, we started with Hitman Holiday. That was kind of an experiment. It was okay, but not where I would have wanted to take it exactly. So, well, it was good as a learning stone. And then there was the second game, which was Queen of the Hill, which then spawned another version called Little Monsters. There was an expansion called Weapons of the Hill. So if that's considered a product, that would be 4 right there. And then we've got Sweet Spot. So Sweet Spot's the really, really awesome tennis card game. And then finally there's Castle Dukes, which is the 6th product, I guess. Yeah, 6.
Okay, so Castle Dukes, from my read of it, is kind of it's a dexterity game, obviously, but there's also some nice Euro game elements that you've included, and it looks really, really interesting. The first thing it kind of looked like was Rampage or Terra Meeple City, but it's a completely different game. You're not breaking stuff down. Here you're building stuff. The components are stellar, at least even the pre-production components. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about how the gameplay works in Castle Dukes?
Yeah, okay, so like what you said, it's a mixture of Euro as well as dexterity. And I like how one of my early playtesters put it. He called it a reverse Jenga. So instead of taking things away, you put things together and you build up. And exactly like you said, this is exactly an opposite reference to the Meeple City. So, well, this game is all about having the fun or the joy of having your own castle and calling the shots. So you get to build your own castle any way you want it. And I think people get really, really absorbed into it when they're playing the game, because there's always this little part in us that wants to do something like this, where you get to design something of your own. It's always fun, when you're designing your own house, when you're designing your own crib, your own lair, so to speak. So yeah, that's the same thing for Castle Dukes. You could build a garden in the basement, and then you could just build a spa on level 3, and just so on and so forth. So the gameplay itself focuses on purchasing decisions, because you have to make the smart decision on when to get certain rooms. So in a way, each room has a set of attributes, or rather bonuses. They give you bonuses to different attributes of your castle, and that's kind of indirect set collection. So if you're going to go for offensive kind of castle, you would look for rooms that give you offense. So in a way, that would be set collection, right?
Sure.
Yep, and the dexterity part would be more on you stacking the things up. And it's not just so simple as so the dexterity is just putting on the pillars and that's it. No, it's actually a real advantage in this game, where if you're really good with your fingers and all, you could edge out over your competition, because let's say, for example, you want to build from level 1 to level 2. If you're not very good at dexterity, you could use 4 or 6 pillars, and they'll have a very stable foundation for your castle. On the other hand, if you're really good at this kind of thing, you could just do 1 pillar. I mean, that sounds crazy, but the rules, they don't apply any kind of restriction in this game, other than for your tiles to sometimes require you to put specific spots with pillars. Otherwise, it's free for all, man. Like, you could just do anything you want. 1 pillar. Oh yeah, go you.
Because you're paying for each set of pillars, right?
Yes. So with less pillars used, definitely you would get to do more actions of other things,
right?
Which in turn, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right about this.
Yeah. So I would definitely be having to buy more pillars, because not only is it you have to worry about setting it up correctly and balancing it, but throughout the gameplay, if you knock stuff over, you're going to lose out on some points too.
Yeah, that's a very important thing that we found out during the playtests, was that if you get into that situation, it doesn't feel good. So generally, a rule of thumb would be, you don't want players to feel bad at all. So this thing was kind of a balance between making it fun as well as something that's still not that punishing. So at the end of the day, we did a very good balance between it by just saying, okay, no matter how many times you drop in a single instance, like be it just once or 2 items, you always only lose 2 victory points, and that's it. So there's like a cap for your loss.
Sure. And I think that's good, because I would definitely benefit from a cap. So let's talk about the components here, because I mean, there's a ton of stuff that comes in this box. I mean, every player has their own castle board, right? With 3 different construction spots. And you have all of these different floor tiles, you have all of these pillars, and they're all good chunky components. So what's the highest level that you've ever built when playtesting? Okay,
when playtesting, I think was level, for me, 8.
Oh man!
I have this really crazy guy in the team who could build all the way to 11.
Jeez.
But then by doing that, he had to sacrifice the other 2 spots and just focus on 1.
Okay.
Which is still fine. The game allows you to do different strategies and all. But during the stability test, where we had to make sure the game was playable to a certain limit, we built all the way to 16 before it fell.
That's really,
not advisable though.
That's really cool, because I mean, I think what's really cool with games is when you can just look at something at the end and it's something that you built. It's like, when you build Legos, I was going to say Legos as kids, but plenty of adults still build Legos because they're awesome. But just being able to say, just being able to say, I built that, and just kind of admire it. You take a picture, you put it on social media, on Twitter or whatever. It's just cool. It's just cool to kind of look at something and be like, I didn't just play a game. I built something. I think that's really neat. What I'm interested in too, right, is, I mean, we kind of talked about earlier, there's like action points to purchase buildings, or purchase rooms, but there's also the benefits you get from the different room tiles and the different resources you get, and trying to anticipate which visitors, they called visitors? The knights,
yes.
Which visitors are going to show up. So, I mean, there's definitely some strong Euro elements there. Can you kind of go into like some of those bonuses?
Okay, so it's more actually something that was born from streamlining the game. So the very early prototypes, you could actually spend action points to get the table, the serfs, and all the coffers. So later we realized that it was too complicated. Like, there were just so many decisions you could do, and then we decided to just streamline the whole thing. And we did a lot of matrix balance to make sure nothing was broken. So eventually this whole thing, this extra part, became something of a catch-up mechanism. So if you're behind in terms of action points, which today we changed to something we call coins, it makes more sense, right? Like you spend coins buying room plans and buying furniture. So in a trade-off, if you spent all 5 coins you had in a single turn, that's it. You're done for the turn. So we put this as a way to get you back in the game, and just so you don't have to get so far behind in terms of number of things you could do. And that's why we would offer you the table for free if you were to spend all 5, and then so on and so forth for serve, and then for coffers, which all give you victory points at the end. It's more like a catch-up mechanism.
Okay, that makes sense. And I got to say, so not only does the gameplay look really solid, not only are the components cool, but the art is really good. Is this all final art that's on the Kickstarter page?
It is. Well, there are some changes. For example, the main board itself, we have improved it even more during the campaign itself. Our artist is still hard at work. So, yeah, you're right. I would say she's totally someone who could do AAA quality.
Yeah.
And yeah, the artwork isn't cheap, but we're going all out. Like, it's today in this competitive environment, with Kickstarter having all kinds of great games, it's really important that artwork is something that stands out in your game.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think it's really easy to get lost in the shuffle. Even if you have a good product on Kickstarter, you can get lost in the shuffle. So I think that Kickstarter creators really have to work hard to distinguish themselves. And I think this is a very unique game. I think it looks different than most stuff that you see on Kickstarter.
Thank you.
No, absolutely. I mean that. I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. So this is ending on March 30th. So like I said, you'll have about 3 days to go check this out. So if people want to pledge, what's the pledge amount?
Because we're from Singapore, it's in a Singapore currency, Sing dollars. But if you were to convert it in USD, it's actually just 59.59 for the base set. And you could just go all the way to the premium one, which grants you that really, really nifty box sleeve.
Yeah.
That's limited edition, by the way. That one would be, I believe it was 100. Yeah, 110.
Yeah, so I think if people are going to Kickstarter, you'll see the price initially in Singapore dollars, and so for US backers, for everyone else, I know Kickstarter converts that for you to your local currency. So just make sure you're looking at the right amount, and I think you'll be pleased with that price point. So what's the plan as far as when this is going to fulfill? Okay,
so Medieval Lords, we're pretty experienced by now. As you know, this is our 6th product. We don't want to overpromise. We haven't failed at all in any of our Kickstarters in terms of delivery. I would say October is the official one, and we're giving a pretty safe deadline for that. But don't quote me on this. We are pushing really hard to get this done by July.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be good. July.
Cool. And it sounds like in your situation, the game development is mostly done, the art is mostly done. So, because a lot of times on Kickstarter, you'll have, another 6 months, year or more of art waiting to get finished and development and all sorts of stuff. So I appreciate that, you've brought this pretty much ready to go, it sounds like.
Yeah, but Kickstarter always changes your game.
Oh, sure.
So, we do have quite a bit of stretch goals right now. Like, there's still a few more planned that I strongly believe in the last 2 days we're going to be able to hit. And that will definitely need time to implement because none of these goals are, Yeah,
I'm sure.
They weren't planned.
So I know that you're obviously in the home stretch of the Kickstarter campaign, and I know that, once that's done, you're going to be working hard on fulfillment. But are you kind of looking forward to the future? Is there some other stuff coming down that we can expect from Medieval Lords in the near future?
Well, we do have another game that a few people have been talking about. That's I'm not sure if that's going to be the next game, because we have a pipeline of 6 different games, all of which are 80% done.
Wow.
Some of them 100%, but we're just not sure which one to start with. But there is one game that I think could be interesting. It's called Cantabile Blitz, and we did put an entry on Board Game Geek. So if you want, you could just check that out. It's a musical game where you roll dice in real time, and every player is kind of like the owner of his own orchestra. You start with a skeleton crew, and you have like one of each, like a violinist, a bass guy, and you slowly earn your way up in different performance competitions, and you add on to your crew of orchestra until eventually you have a whole stage of it. Yeah, so that's another interesting game that's more on music, and it's more on a mad rush in the actual gameplay, where you just roll dice to fulfill the different scores. When I say score, I don't mean like game score.
Right,
it's more like musical score.
Wow, that's really interesting. That sounds really different. I mean, whenever there's a unique theme, that always catches my interest, and I know a lot of people that would be interested. I know we've got a loyal listener, Megan Naxer, and she's big into classical music. So that sounds really cool. I applaud you for an interesting game.
Yeah, we try.
All right, so if people want to go check out the Kickstarter, I'll put a link in the show notes. Otherwise, if people want to interact with you online, are you active on social media at all?
We do have Twitter, and on Medieval Lords itself, we have a Facebook, and I will definitely do an AMA, probably on the second day to closure of Castle Dukes, I guess.
Okay, for all those Reddit users out there. So last pitch for Castle Dukes. Any final words to tell our listeners why they should go back it?
Oh, you said it. It's really, really unique, and the dexterity games that have strategy elements in them that I see so far today. Well, we don't point fingers, to be honest, but well, I just feel that they have been pasted on. Like,
sure.
It's kind of like a forced thing, but when you really do play Castle Dukes, it's very smooth. You feel that nothing in the game is forcefully added together. It all makes sense, and it plays really smooth. Like the two extreme elements that usually you don't see together. Yeah. They work in here.
Okay. All right. Well, Dominic, thanks for coming on the show and telling us a little about this interesting Kickstarter of yours. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean.
All right. Thank you. Gone. One of the things that I miss most is lying to his face and watching him believe it. I also miss playing Sheriff of Nottingham with him. Heyo! But seriously, let's talk about Sheriff of Nottingham for a minute. It is a duchy favorite after all. Sheriff is a game about bluffing, smuggling, and some set collecting. Each round, one of you takes on the role of the sheriff and the others are trying to get goods into town. You tell the sheriff what you have in your secret bag, or maybe you lie about it. If the sheriff catches you in the lie, he has to pay a penalty. Yikes, but if you're caught lying, you dirty, dirty liar you, then you have to pay that penalty. It's just one of the awesome games in Arcane Wonders' Dice Tower Essentials line. It's a fantastic game that the Dukes love to play. It's helped turn my 15-year-old into a fantastic liar. It's just one of the awesome games in Arcane Wonders' Dice Tower's Essential line. Check out the rest of them at arcanewonders.com, and while you're at it, give Sheriff of Nottingham a look. Vikings were historically known for carefully fitting together Tetris pieces to maximize production and minimize point losses. Tales of pillaging and plundering have been fanciful elaborations of Hollywood, when all Vikings really wanted to do was to organize their polyominoes. It's a feast for Odin. Alright guys, so Feast for Odin, Z-Man Games, Uwe Rosenberg. This is, by many people's estimation, kind of the culmination of Uwe's designs. Like, it just kind of is the kitchen sink. It adds everything in. that he's ever done. It's got a little bit of Patchwork. It's got a little bit of Le Havre. It's got a little bit of Caverna. It's got a little bit of Fields of Arla, right? Isn't that what people are saying?
That seems to be, it's like a sandbox full of Uwe bits.
It was like hyped, I felt like it was hyped humongously as like, hey, this is going to be everything you want it to be from an Uwe game. Everything that's come before it is going to be now.
Yeah, and I feel like that's pretty accurate. So here's the briefest of rules overviews. Basically, it's a worker placement game. You have 60-some different spots to put your workers on. They're organized into a column of 1 worker, 2 worker, 3 worker, 4 workers. So you have to actually spend multiple workers to take various spots. There is a collection of resources. There's a collection of tiles. There's converting resources to various things. There is some dice rolling when you go raiding and pillaging, or you go hunting and trapping. And at the end of this, what you're trying to do is fill in your individual player board with these different polyomino Tetris-style pieces. And the better you're able to do that, the faster you're able to do that, the more income you're going to generate. You're going to generate some additional resources. And at the end of the game, you're trying to score a bunch of points from things that you've gathered, and you're trying to cover up a bunch of these negative points on your boards. Potentially going out and discovering new lands. There are new boards for you to fill in, or building different, what are they called? Huts or stone or houses?
Sheds. Sheds
That's
and
right.
houses.
Yeah.
Houses and sheds, which are worth potentially more points, but you have to fill in with more of these polyomino pieces. I think that's going to be the extent of the rules overview, because it's either that minimal approach or it's going to be like taking 40 minutes to explain it. So let's not do that. So guys, what are your general impressions of A Feast for Odin?
I really actually have enjoyed all of my plays of this. I think that there's a lot of different tactics and different strategies that you can take in this. There's a lot of different ways to score points, and it just felt like it was probably my most enjoyed of the Uwe games that I've played. I've only played, I think, 4 of them, so I'm not speaking from like a super experienced Rosenberg background, but I've played Agricola, I've played Caverna and Bonanza, which we talked about already. So compared to Agricola, which I hated, and Caverna, which I was very like, okay, cool, this is definitely the one that I enjoy the most.
At first, I thought you were going to say, so I haven't actually played it. And I was going to be like, oh my God.
Come on. You had one job.
If you asked Quinten that question 3 days ago, he would have said,
but I've ground out a ton of plays. Guess what I did all day today, Sean? Multiple plays.
fresh in his mind.
Nice.
No, for me, for Feast for Odin, I really enjoy Uwe Rosenberg's lighter fare, like Bonanza and Patchwork. I love Bonanza so much.
I've played Patchwork too, sorry.
Yeah.
I played that like a bajillion times.
Yeah. And so I might be taking like the Alex approach to games in this episode, just to, have both sides of it. No, it's been fine so far. I'm not a huge heavy gamer though either. Aaron's definitely the heavier gamer out of the pair of us.
Are you calling me fat?
No, just okay. So I realized that I am bad at this game. Like, not good. Wait, okay, Sean, I have a question for you.
Sure, shoot.
What would you say is a good score for you for this game?
I don't know that I'm that good at this game. I have scored 100.
Okay, what do you consider? Oh,
Wait,
sorry. Yeah.
like low 100, like not quite 110, like 105, 106. Most of my plays were like in the 70 to 90 range.
Okay, good. Okay, that's where I live. I'm pretty comfortable right in the kind of like high 70s, kind of low 80s range.
I did just play a solo game, which I actually recorded myself playing that I'll put up on YouTube at some point, where I got 56. It was terrible.
I also scored one of those today.
But I was so concerned about like just keeping it quick and not like, being super AP in this game that's being recorded that I don't think I quite did everything optimally. Like I was just kind of, it was very like, I was playing by gut more than, anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you talk about AP, I find I suffered from a lot of it during this game too. there'd be times where I'd be like, oh, I want to do this action. And then just because of like the sheer volume of options available to you, I think, I'd sit there in second and triple guess myself all of the time. It's like, oh, I want to go hunting because I want to get the red tile because then I could upgrade it to the green one. But I could actually really just go to this other one where I upgrade tiles and that'd be good. And I can just flip over these other ones that I have. But so many options. Like, oh, I could go raiding. I love pillaging. That's good for me too. But how am I going to fit like these weird shaped things?
What about you, Sean? What's your overall first impressions?
I like this a lot. Number one, I like Uwe. Uwe is one of my absolute top designers. I mean, it's Feld, it's Uwe, and Alexander Pfister, right? I have played 12 different Uwe games, and I've got my ranking. I know exactly where this ranks among all of the Uwe games. And so I love these games, right? And I love the fact that I can say, oh, well, that's inspired by Le Havre. Oh, that's, well, not inspired by Patchwork, but Patchwork kind of grew out of this, placing these Tetris pieces. But like just being able to be like, oh, yeah, that's familiar to me from this and familiar to me from that. Because I love this style of game, and I love Uwe as a designer. And my plays of this were, oh my god, this is amazing, to, this is so-so, and then the last couple times I'm like, oh, no, this is really solid. So it just was kind of all over the place, and I felt like the longer that I spent away from the game, the less I liked it, but then once I'm actually in the game, the more I enjoyed it. And like you guys mentioned, there is just so many different routes here. If Alex were here, he'd be talking about, the multiple paths to victory. And I think that's absolutely the case. I think there are just so many things you can do in this game. I feel like I continually gravitate towards raiding, and I've consciously been like, okay, you're not going to do raiding in this game. You're not going to do it. And I keep doing it. And I don't know why that is.
That's funny because I constantly find myself drifting towards, oh, hey, money everywhere. I want all of the money.
I actually consciously took I attempted to be purely emigration.
Oh.
In
I did that today, actually, and it turned out all right.
I only lost to Lindsay by about 10 points. And I had emigrated 5 of the 7 spots on the board. So I think I got 75 points just from emigration.
Mm-hmm.
How early were you doing that?
First round.
No, second round.
No,
you can't do it in the first round.
I did it. No, my entire first round was spent buying a boat and then emigrating. I got $1.
Oh, yeah, I guess you can do that with the merchant, can't you?
I did just enough I didn't build up my engine at all, so that's probably what slowed me down in the end. But like, I did pretty good for just focusing on that one thing.
So you can do one for wood. Like, one could get you a couple wood. 2 guys, so 3 guys.
I did.
And you got a boat, and then 2. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Just have faith in me.
All right, sure.
You were there.
So let's talk about that, right? Because there are these 3 types of ships. There are these whaling boats. They're called, Narls? And
Nar.
No, Nars are the merchant ones.
I don't know, whatever.
Nards?
The whaling.
They're boats. There are 3 boats.
Nards. And then there's the long ships.
Let's keep this Dice Tower appropriate, Sean.
I'm quoting Monster Squad. Have you guys seen Monster Squad?
Nope, no idea what it is.
We're bringing Alex to the podcast by not knowing whatever movie you're talking about.
Good job. Now, Monster Squad's a little obscure. Anyway, there's just a line, whoa, Wolfman's got nards. Anyway, because they were having this whole debate whether or not Wolfman would have nards. Like, of course he would. He's a mammal. Like, why wouldn't he?
I don't know. I got my dogs fixed, so...
So yeah, you can take an action to go get some wood. You can take an action to then turn that wood into these different types of boats. And I think that there's a 1-worker build a boat, and then there's like a 2-worker build a boat, and they're both the same. It's just that whoever gets to it first is going to pick the 1-worker option, right?
No, the 1-worker is the whaling, the 2-worker is the merchant, 3-worker is the raider.
Raiding boat.
Thanks for showing me up on my own show, Quentin.
No problem. I've played it so much today.
So now you can use these to do things throughout the game. Like you can use the whaling boats to go whaling. You can use the long ships to go pillaging and raiding and whatnot. But you can also decide to take an action to emigrate, where you're taking some people from your home island and you're having them go settle elsewhere, which reduces your feeding requirements because it's an Uwe game, so you have to feed your people.
Boo.
So bad, I hate it.
But it also turns 8 points into 21 points. But if you do it in round 1, it costs you $1. If you do it in round 7, it costs you $7. So you net more points the earlier you do it. And when we're talking about multiple paths to victory, I mean, that right there, that's like 6% of the game that we just talked about, and that's it. Like, there's so many other things to do.
Well, and the other cool thing is that what I started doing was I was buying boats and then using it to do the thing that boat lets me do. So, like, I would buy the trading boat, and I would do the trading action where you turn all of the greens, like as many different greens as you can into blues, as long as they're not repeats. And then I would then emigrate, so I would ditch that boat, right? And then I would buy, the raiding boat, and then I'd go stab some people, steal some stuff, and then I would emigrate that boat. So I realized partway through that I was like, oh, okay, I need to be smarter with what I'm doing instead of just wasting actions. And I think that's why I like this game, is that it still forces me to be efficient, right? I like that you have a glut of workers, like you continuously get more and more workers over the course of the game, because that's how the game works. Like, you don't have to buy new workers or anything, which I also liked. You just get one every round, but you just still need to be efficient with, even when you have like 8, 9, 10 guys that you're placing on the board, you still need to be efficient with your actions.
Hey, so let's talk about these tiles while we're at it, right? So there are 4 different colors of tiles. There's orange, red, which are your kind of consumable food items, and then there's green and blue. And that's kind of the ascending order, because it actually has you set up in these trays that are kind of like the GMT or DVG black trays. And it has you set them up in a particular order, because there's a certain priority to the way these get upgraded, so both going up and horizontally and vertically. So, like, for example, when you're placing the green and blue shapes on your player board, greens cannot be adjacent to one another, whereas blues can. So there's an inherent higher value in blue tiles than, say, your green tiles, right?
Yeah, they're all like shiny bits, like necklaces and
silverware.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just interesting to me how much you have to be concerned with not just the shapes of things, but what type of things. Because it's like, oh, I have access to all of these green tiles, but I'm really restricted in how I can actually place them on my board, because they can't be adjacent to one another.
And I also liked how on the sheds and houses, you could use the red and orange tiles there, but not on your main board. So and again, they couldn't be next to each other. So, like, you had to mix it all up in those little spots as well. I thought that was a cool idea.
Yeah. So this rule book, or rather the 3 rule books, right? So you've got the main rule book, you've got the appendix, which lists all of the different cards that you have in this game. And we didn't really talk about the cards, but there are these different profession cards, and there's actually 3 sets of them, A, B, and C. They get progressively more complex. So you've got the rulebook, the appendix, and then you also have like a Viking history manual. In case you...
It's the almanac. Yeah. For coming from a podcast where we like to know like the theme behind the game, I probably should have read some of that to be prepared for this, but I didn't do my homework for this test, Mr. Ramirez. Sorry.
Oh, man. I used to be a teacher too.
I know that. I know.
All right. Just throwing that out there.
I mean, you gave it up to a much more lucrative career.
You literally sold out.
Yeah, you did work for like terrible people for a while.
Yeah. Well, what can you do?
I mean, we work for terrible people in BC, but that's just because our premier is the worst. High five.
You bet.
Election coming soon.
Gonna vote them out of office.
Sorry.
Is that an option? Is that an option up there?
Well, I mean, just like you guys could have done things.
Anyway, so yeah, these rule books, this is a common complaint I've had with Uwe Rosenberg rule books, is they are excellent for teaching you the game. In fact, this little cartoon Uwe pops up every now and then with these little tips. Oh, just so you know, you might want to make sure to do this. And you're like, oh, thanks, Uwe.
Get out of here, paperclip. I don't need your help.
But as far as referencing, my complaint has generally been that they're terrible for referencing. However, I think that this one actually breaks that pattern.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually pretty good for referencing.
I was gonna say, like, I didn't read the rule book because Aaron taught me the game, but when I did have issues with rules, or when I wanted clarification, I didn't want to like keep bothering Aaron. Hey, Aaron, what about the? I could look in the rule book and I found my answers like pretty quick. I was quite happy with it.
Yeah, I think part of it has to do with the way the phases the different phases are kind of broken down. And so
it's organized.
Yeah, it's very organized. And so this was quite the difference to me in terms of other Uwe Rosenberg rulebooks. So I appreciated that. And the appendix is very thorough. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it gives you the details on the cards that, like, because the iconography is okay in the game, but like for the job cards or the whatever profession cards, like you look at it and you're like, I think I know what this means, but I'm just gonna double check just in case.
So many times though, I always double check because it'd be like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Like, you know what? I'm just gonna make sure and be like, oh, this meant something totally different than what I thought it was.
Yeah, no, I feel like I have to double check because I feel like I made too many assumptions with the iconography. I agree, 100%. Component wise, what do you guys think about the Z-Man production here?
It's a big old box.
Big old box full of lots and lots of cardboard.
Yeah, it's actually not bad because they give you those trays. Like, if they didn't give you those trays, this would be just a whole cup of bullcrap. Like, just the fact that they teach you how to lay it all out so that you can level everything up easily and all of that. Like, it's a necessity to have, and so that was really nice. Well,
and even like the Meeple Realty insert keeps those trays, right? Because, like you mentioned, you have to lay them out in a certain way. There's a spatial relationship to the goods, and so they want you to lay out the trays in a certain way.
Can I say that I really appreciate if they give you like vacuum form molds like this? I really like when they're rounded bottom wells so that you can just grab the thing and just kind of pull it up. I have a terrible thing about trying to pick something up off of a flat surface. Cards are, real bad. And trying to I have big fat fingers also, because I'm also a large person, and trying to get your fingers into the little vacuum form molds, like, if they're not going to be rounded bottoms, like, why waste my time?
Yeah, so these were good. I mean,
these are excellent.
They were nice. The art in the game itself is very much like, hey, this is a Euro. Surprise, It looks like a Euro.
Although there's more greens than browns.
Sure.
And blues. It had nice, cool colors. It was aesthetically pleasing to my eye.
Yeah,
Take that with what you want.
Yeah, I mean, as far as your typical Euro art, this is Dennis Lohausen, who has done a ton of Uwe games. So, I mean, I think of like him and Clemens Franz are kind of my go-to for Euros. And I think it's solid. You've got all these. They look like dwarves on the box cover. Like, I don't see them as Vikings. I see them as dwarves.
Sure. Yeah.
And
we can go with that.
No, you guys look in the box.
I mean, no. Aaron's holding up the box. That is a gigantic beard. That is a dwarven beard right there.
These are clearly dwarves, not
the man in the far left with the helmet and like raising his horn like he's ready to party. Yeah, he looks very dwarven.
Yeah, he does. Although the guy on the side, look at the guy on the side. That is no. Turn the box on the side. That's not a dwarf. That's a dude.
That's true. Yeah. So if you do
Spear
a horizontal
whaler
guy
on the left side of the box, that's a dude, not a dwarf.
Yeah, that's true.
But so front of the box, that's a lot of dwarves.
Maybe it's one of the noticeably tall dwarves, like
like the stupid Hobbit movies. Yeah,
so stupid. Oh god, they're terrible.
Can we go off on that tangent?
Yeah, let's talk about how bad the Hobbit trilogy was.
Oh my goodness,
Sean!
The wizard battles. What is going on,
Sean? Your show is known for being succinct and being, but you have invited the wrong people onto your podcast today.
As someone who has read the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit at least half a dozen times, who has played numerous Lord of the Rings games, who takes great joy in correctly pronouncing the Anduin River, right? Because it's
well done.
It's so good to say that.
I just want to punch you right now, so hard
for saying Anduin.
Yeah, totally.
No, you Sean, you keep going, man. Go.
So let me just ask you. Do you guys get a little tingle whenever Viggo Mortensen says Mordor? Because I do. I tell you.
Yeah. He does a good job.
Oh my God.
I really like it.
That man is sexy.
In more ways than one.
So anyway, The Hobbit was terrible. But anyway, Feast for Odin. So let's talk about the gameplay. We kind of alluded before about the multiple paths to victory. And since we're not kind of going through all of the rules, maybe it kind of helps to talk about some of those different strategic paths you can take. So we kind of talked about just emigrating, right? Just buying some ships, getting a couple uses out of them, and then sending your people off, and you get a bunch of points. The one thing that I was doing a lot was raiding, which is where you get these long ships, and then you are basically rolling a die. You're rolling either either the orange D8 or the blue D12, and the higher you roll, the better piece of blue tile you're able to get, or maybe one of the special tiles.
The loot.
Yeah, and that's really cool. And so there's a little bit of randomness here in this Euro, and the way it kind of mitigates that is it lets you roll up to 3 times, but you have to decide, am I going to keep this roll or am I going to go on? So maybe you roll a 7 on your D12. Is that good enough? Maybe it is.
No,
but maybe I can do better.
You got to roll again.
Yeah. So you roll again, and you're like, oh, I got an 8 this time. Well, that's a little bit better. I'll roll again. I'll probably get something higher. And you roll your 3, and you're like, damn it. So that's kind of interesting, and certainly that's an easy way to fill up your board, because you can get some bigger and bigger polyominoes from raiding.
You love saying that, don't you? You love saying polyominoes.
Listen, I learned from Suzanne. Suzanne taught me. So, hey, it's fun. It's a fun word.
It is good. You've just said it a lot.
Well, yeah.
Don't worry, I gave him the finger for you.
Thank you. So, are there any other strategies you guys have tried out or played or utilized?
I like the island exploration. I find that often at the end of the game, I've got enough stuff to fill out my own board. Especially after the first game that I played, I was like, I filled out my own board, and I was like, oh, I probably should have bought like another thing to stick this crap on.
See, I've been having trouble filling up my whole board. Today, I didn't fill it up once.
But you, like, those extra boards, they allow you more income,
I know, but I also find that it does not scale the more you get. Having more than one, I don't know if you find this, Sean, but with the islands, you get additional income, and in the same vein as the board. So as you fill it up, you get more money at the end of each turn. I find that having more islands doesn't scale your increase of income to the same level, so that you're having to fill up a lot of space with a lot of negative points on it, but not getting enough income to make it worth your while.
Well, I think, and I don't know that it necessarily makes it worth your while, but you're being able to access different bonuses than you would otherwise. Mm-hmm. So the mechanic here is that generally you're able to put whatever you want on your board wherever, with some exceptions. All along the diagonal, the middle diagonal of the board, are these different income steps that at the end of the round, you're going to score a certain amount of money, which you're going to use for actions and even to fill up your board some more. But in order to cover up these income spots, you have to be able to have filled all of the squares below and all of the squares to the left. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, there's also these bonus spaces where at the end of a turn, you might get extra wood or extra ore or an extra blue rune tile if you're able to completely surround them. And so the different expedition boards give you access to additional income, but then also some extra bonus pieces or bonuses that you wouldn't get otherwise. I know that anytime I have done that strategy, I have done poorly. And I don't know that it's necessarily the mechanic. I think it might be bad at it.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
I
true
am
too.
too, but I also have not found success with that.
Any other strategies you guys have tried?
You and Brendan have tried the cattle, like trying to get lots of cattle before, right?
Brendan
likes
has
the
done
cattle.
that hard. Like, he loves that animal husbandry stuff, and
He beat me today with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I also did really, really bad.
The nice thing about the animals is they are very easy to convert into green and blue items because they are red, right? So, and they're big pieces and they self-procreate, like animals do. And so I find that that's not a bad thing. If you can get like 2 sheep or 2 cows early on in the game, then they're just going to rack up points and maneuverability for you.
And the cow is the biggest tile, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the
It's
the
like 3
blue
by 4.
15 point one or 15 value one. So yeah, it's a big boy.
And what's cool too is there are spaces where if you have cows or you have sheep, you can then go to have them produce byproducts, right? So you have like sheep produce wool, cows produce milk. I mean, it's amazing that there are these like 60 plus spaces on the board and they all have a legitimate function, right? They all have something that I may have no interest in from one game to the next, but eventually I'm going to be playing a strategy that will need these spaces. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I enjoy, in the first couple games that I played, I leaned towards the whaling side of things, and I liked the whaling because you get a lot of stuff, but you are spending 3 people to go and do it. It's
expensive.
But I like the hunting and the whaling and the trapping and all of that. Like, there's just a lot of cool stuff. And I don't think that you necessarily have to, like, we're kind of listing off these ways of focusing, but you don't necessarily have to focus super heavily on one thing. You can also do a mix of a couple things. As long as you're doing those efficiently and well, you'll be successful.
So for me, I find that having tunnel vision often is a detriment. And that trying to spread out a little bit, having some fingers in a lot of pies helps me get kind of that diversification of points that I need to get past that mythical 100-point value that just is so hard for me to get to. But I find that if you can have like a few ships to immigrate because they have lots of points, but then also have some houses and some sheds because they are not insignificant points and they're not hard to fill up space either. And then have some of this and have some of that, and it helps just kind of keep your economy strong, I guess, as it were. And I've had more success with that than just being like, okay, I'm going to just try and get islands or just do I just tried to like plunder real hard in my last game and I still didn't do great because I didn't do anything else really. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying like you just pursue one path and that's it, because for the most part, eventually you're going to get cut off, right? Mm-hmm. So like with raiding, pillaging and raiding, there's basically one spot to raid, 2 spots to pillage, and then there's this like special pillage spot. But I think that's also one of the cool things too, is that the more workers you invest into an action, the more powerful in theory that action is. And at the beginning of the game, when you have, 5 workers, you're like, oh man, I'm seriously going to spend 4 workers for, 4 of my 5 workers for this one action here. And it's like, well, no way. But then every turn, you're getting an additional worker. And so some of those 4 action spots, you're like, oh yeah, clearly I'm gonna do this. And the other thing that I think is cool, and like I said, we haven't really talked about the cards, the profession cards that much, but whenever you go to a 3 worker space, you get to draw a profession card. And then whenever you go to a 4 worker space, you get to play one of the profession cards from your hand, which either gives you some sort of immediate effect or some sort of ongoing ability or some sort of triggered ability. Which I think those profession cards add a lot. And you start the game with one of the starter ones, and that may or may not kind of direct your initial strategy or plan. But I will say, I feel like there's so many of them, and sometimes you'll just draw cards, you're just like, oh, well, this is fine, but I don't know that I could actually use this, to any good effect. I don't know what you guys have thought about those.
Yeah, I mean, the profession cards are my biggest gripe in this game, I think. Because
they're so random.
They're random and they're boring. I very, very rarely enjoy any of the cards, even if they are applicable for me. They're just boring. They're not. Because we've talked about already that we love engine building in our games, and I want more of that out of these cards. I want more of an engine to build out of these cards, and I just don't get it. It's like a little bit, it's just a hair, and I want that little bit more just to get me there.
Yeah, because I think the big engine building aspect of this game comes from fully encircling the little free stuff, the bonus items that you can get, and maybe getting some animals going. That's mostly your engine. You are going to find some random occupations or whatever. I think occupations is Agricola, but it's the same premise. But you're going to get that thing that magically works for the engine you've built, but for the most part, it's not going to be that way.
I also think that this is a game. My gripes about this game are the same reason that we didn't love Inish, in that you have to kind of roll with the punches and you can't go into it really saying like, I'm going to do this, because you need to be able to adapt to the situation that or adapt to the hand that you're dealt, quite literally. And you need to be able to change tacks when you need to.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that for the most part. I mean, there's certainly, you can develop your long-term strategy, but like a lot of other worker placement games, it's going to depend on what's available to you in that turn. So what player counts have you guys played at?
2 and 3.
Yeah, same.
Okay, so I've played solo, I played 2, I played 3, I played 4. And at 4, I felt like I was getting blocked a lot. But
I could see that.
Anything less, 3 or less, I didn't really feel that. I mean, certainly if you have like all three of you going for raiding, there's only really, 4, there's 4 spots for that. There are imitation spots. So in a 1, 2, 3 player game, there's a spot where you can go that just lets you take an action that someone else took, and they give you another one of those at 4 players. Other than that, there's really no scaling for the size of the board, which I think made 4 and 3 feel drastically, well, I don't know that drastically different's the right, but definitely made them feel different.
I didn't mind 3. I definitely got blocked by Lindsay and Quinten a few times in the game that we played.
It's because they hate you, but anyway.
That's true. And I was very vocal about my emigration strategy.
Yeah, I was going to say that screwed you at the beginning. I was like, oh, thank you so much for being upfront about strategy and helping me get my mind around this humongous action board. And Lindsay's like, I'm going to take that information and I'm going to screw you with it.
Yeah, she likes to do that in games.
Yeah, I think 3 is probably the sweet spot for this.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy this solo, and I think even at 2 players, though, the game flies by. Like, it's really quick at 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I never felt like there was any blocking at 2 players.
It's a fairly solitaire game at 2.
Yeah.
It's like you're playing solo, but with a friend nearby.
Hooray!
You can have a conversation. You can be like, how's that strategy working out for you? Well, it's not doing it. Cool. I'm doing awesome.
What about the theme? Do you think that this is a fairly thematic or narrative game?
No.
It comes with a book that tells you things about Vikings, I guess, maybe.
If the game needs to tell you that it's thematic, it's not thematic.
It's filled with Norse themed things and yeah, mostly pictures. Like you have a horn filled with, I think, mead, yeah. But then you've got like a bag or a bucket of peas. Like, is that specifically Norse?
I think they're peas, yeah.
And so and then just the fact that like feasting, hey, that makes sense,
cool. Sure. That's also called feeding your workers. Yeah, it sucks as a mechanic.
Or eating generally.
Yeah, just living.
But the whole idea of like you're getting more workers all the time, like that, there's no explanation for that, or at least that I saw in the gameplay that connected with it. You're exploring, like there's certain things, like it made sense that the bigger boats allowed you to travel all the way to Newfoundland, right? Because that's Canada and it's a great place and everyone should come visit.
Also Baffin Island.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got those things, but there's thematic touches, but I didn't feel like I was building a village or any of that.
Well, the whole one of the largest mechanics of the game, the whole spatial reasoning aspect. What's the thematic point of that?
You're hucking a bunch of junk all over the floor in your hut, I guess.
I mean, Sean made light of it in the description of the game. Like, it's silly thematically, right? It's awesome in the game. I love doing it, but thematically, it's stupid.
So, does the rulebook help at all? Because it starts off, the front page of the rulebook says, A Feast for Odin is a saga in the form of a board game. You are reliving the cultural achievements, mercantile expeditions, and pillages of those tribes we know as Vikings today. Did that sell you? Did I convince you?
Well, I mean, I always use tons of rocks when I'm pillaging, so absolutely.
Yeah, just throwing those rocks at people.
Hey, I don't have enough swords, but I have this big boulder. It's like I'm playing Munchkin.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely some thematic touchstones, but I mean, it's your typical Uwe Rosenberg game. Like a Feld, I mean, I'm not looking for a particularly strong thematic connection.
No.
I care more about the mechanics, and I think that definitely applies here.
Absolutely. That's a very, good statement.
All right, well, let's head over to the guild. We do have some guild thoughts.
Jeff Hayward said, I'm going to say it. I love A Feast for Odin. It is definitely in the happier, friendlier Uwe Rosenberg line of games, but as far as those games go, I love it. My first Uwe game was Caverna. I loved all the bits. I didn't like the game. I felt overwhelmed with all the options and never felt like I was being blocked by anyone. I don't see how he felt like that in this game. Anyways, it just didn't scratch an itch for me. I had originally hoped that the cards with Feast would make it a tighter game like Agricola or Le Havre, but it's not the same as the Occupation minor improvement cards of Agricola. While it's more of an open game and more sandboxy, I love the theme, I love the pieces, I love the spatial aspect of the game boards. It's a gentle Uwe, but it's the one I want to play. That in my head, for some reason, that sounds weird, like a gentle Uwe. He's like caressing you as you play the game.
Go buy you breakfast in the morning.
Yeah. I will soon be selling my copy of Caverna. I don't see myself ever playing it again. He also did not give a rating, but the amount of cuddling that he was doing with Uwe there, I would say he's probably in the 5 range.
Yeah, sounds like it. So, I mean, we didn't talk about the feeding your people mechanic, but basically you need to take red and orange tiles to feed the banquet table, essentially. And I agree. I think as far as a feeding mechanism goes, it is definitely gentler than your Agricola.
Well, you just get free food.
Yeah.
Like every other round, you're just getting free food for doing literally nothing. So that's why it's way friendlier and softer and
absolutely.
gentler to the touch.
Yeah. Feeding you workers is always a good time in a board game. It's great.
So, Megan Naxter says, a week ago, my rating for Feast for Odin might have been different. Disclaimer, I've played 2 times so far with 2 and 3 players, and I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it. At the current moment, probably a 3 out of 6. Whoa, that's surprisingly low. The first time I played Feast, I loved it. Really fun, exciting, trying to figure out how to place all my pieces. Really interesting strategies, definitely onto the wish list. I was really unsure of how my husband would enjoy it, as he is a bit hit or miss with Rosenberg's designs. We love Patchwork and Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, so I thought it was worth a try. We borrowed a friend's copy, and on my second play, it just didn't click. I'll let him add his own comments if he wants, but for me, some of the initial glitter had worn off, and the lack of interaction really killed it for me. We were even both going down similar strategies, and I only felt blocked one time, and that wasn't a huge deal. The rest of the time, we ignored each other and did our own things. Maybe it was hard to enjoy it when he wasn't having a good time, but I don't think that would swing me that far. I think he summed it up best after our play. We could have played All Creatures Big and Small and Patchwork in the same amount of time and had more fun. I think he's right.
Well, we're going to follow up with Paul, her husband. I'm assuming her husband. They have the same last name. And he said, after watching a few reviews, hearing Megan talk it up, and knowing it was a bit of a mashup of Uwe games, I thought it might be a good multiplayer solitaire game. The troubles came quick and hard after the bear of a 30-plus minute rules rundown. For me, the theme was a swing and a miss. Baseball Highlights 2045, first mention?
Yeah, he did it.
Yeah,
he got it.
You
Nailed
did it. Way to go.
As hoarding, converting, and arranging items in a specific non-meaningful way seems senseless. It also reminded me of cleaning up someone else's mess. A task I am not want to do. The level of player interaction was low, especially given the number of places you can place your workers. Though I knew it was coming, I didn't realize how much I value interaction until we were well into it. It's not a bad game, but a very hard pass for me. 2 out of 6.
Woo.
Frowny face.
Wow, that is that's a low one.
By the way, a 2 is game has some merit, but has significant issues.
All right, well, Jason Lees writes, Feast for Odin has felt better for me each time I've played it. I've played it 1, 3, and 4. The first play was overwhelming, and I didn't get what I was really supposed to do, but each other time, I felt like I was at least trying something reasonable. I'm real bad at it, as I am at every Uwe game, but it feels so good to play. I'm always doing something cool.
All right, guys, let's do our final thoughts and rating. What order do we want to do this in?
Alphabetical.
All right, Aaron, lead us off.
All right, so I struggled with this a little bit just because, I like I said at the start, this is probably my favorite Uwe game, but I was disappointed with Caverna when I played it a few weeks ago. I had actually played A Feast for Odin first and then came back to Caverna, which Brendan showed me, and it was just lacking. Like, I was unimpressed. So with A Feast for Odin, I was like, yeah, this is my favorite one. And then I played it a few more times, and I'm struggling with deciding if it's going to be between a 4 or a 5. So, like, I do believe that it's a good game worth playing, and it belongs in the Duchy, but I agree with that just not all the time thing. Like, there are other Euro games I would prefer to play in the long run. I have a collection that is fairly significant, and while I think this is good, and if Quinten was like, hey, let's play, like, here's what's helping me is Lindsay, when I asked her this morning, hey, how did you like that game last night? She's like, yeah, it was good, I'd play it again. And so that gets me going. Like, I was like, sweet, let's do it again. And so that pushes it again towards that 5, but I think I still have to end with a very strong high 4.5 or whatever.
No decimals. No decimals.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time. It's a 4 for me, a very strong and powerful Viking rating 4.
Triumphant 4.
A triumphant mead slurping 4.
That sounds less triumphant, but
Yeah,
sure, I'll give it
that's
to
weird.
you.
It's just all down his chin and in his beard.
Yeah, that doesn't sound triumphant at all. You put the mead in your mouth. That's the triumphant part.
Well, he's had so many of them that it's getting a little sloppy.
That, again, doesn't sound super triumphant anymore.
Well, that's why it's not a 5, okay?
All right, so after just grinding out this game as many times as I could here, I'm gonna put this one at a 3. I think.
Sure.
The game's okay. For me, it's not horribly exciting, but I'll play it in the right situation. I'd play it if somebody wanted to play it. I'd be more than happy to play it, I think, but I'm not going to be going out of my way for it. I really want more of an engine out of this game. I think the cards gave me that little taste, and I wanted more out of that. It's just a 3. It's a 3. It's good. It's a good game. And I'm never going to take that away from anybody else. But it's not going to be a super popular one for me.
Are you going to continue to apologize like a good Canadian on how you feel about this game?
No, whatever. This game's a 3. Suck it.
All right, so I have played a total of 12 Uwe Rosenberg games.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you've played it 12 times.
No. So 12 Uwe Rosenberg games. And I will tell you right now, it is the number 1 Uwe Rosenberg game for me of the bottom half of the list.
Oh.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You're a roller coaster of emotions here.
You like that? Yeah, so I've got my list of 12, and it's number 7. All right, so just real quick. Number 12, Mercator, 11, Cottage Garden, 10, Agricola, 9, All Creatures Big and Small, 8, Bonanza, 7, here it is, Feast for Odin.
Bonanza, put that higher up on the list.
It's good. It's fine. It's right where it belongs. 6 is Ora et Labora, 5 is Glass Road, 4 is Patchwork, 3 is Caverna, 2 is Fields of Arla, and number 1 is Le Havre, which is so good. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, if it's in the bottom half of my Uwe games, that's still saying a lot, because I mean, he's one of game. Yeah, he's one of my favorite designers. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a 4 as well. A good game worth playing just in all the time belongs in the Duchy. And certainly there were moments where I'm like, oh, I think I could give this a 5. And I like what it does. I like how this is kind of the culmination of a lot of his different designs. But I feel like if you want to do the resource conversion, I'd rather play Le Havre. I mean, well, obviously, it's my number one Uwe game. So I like this quite a bit. I could almost see this becoming a 5 with more plays, but, say a year from now, but I almost see this as, well, am I going to actually bring this out? Because there's so many other Uwe games that kind of scratch in the same itch, or even The Colonists, which we reviewed the other week, that I don't know how often I would actually bring this out. Like, it's good. It's really good. And I think I can gain more of an appreciation for this over time. I just don't know if it's going to get that chance. Definitely solid. Definitely worth checking out. Multiple paths to victory. So many cool different things you can do. Definitely a brain burner. So, but ultimately a 4. Good game, worth playing just all the time. Belongs in the Duchy. All right, well, that's going to do it for our review of A Feast for Odin, a 3 from Quinten, and then a pair of 4s from Aaron and Sean. So this week, we're looking back at episode 84, Pretty Smashed Up One Night.
That's a solid name.
Where we reviewed Booze Barons from Overworld Games. I think we're also doing a double take on some smash up expansion.
And One Night Ultimate Werewolf.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was our expansion review where we did like Seven Wonders Babel, Pretty Smash Up, and One Night Ultimate Werewolf Daybreak, now that I think about it. And so, yeah, that was a pretty fantastic title. So, real quick, Booze Barons is kind of a team hidden role social deduction game where you are these bootleggers during Prohibition era that you're trying to figure out who's on your team, and you're going to these different locations to try and run some illegal booze. This was designed by Jeremy Commandeur. At the time, I gave it a filler 4, something that we've done from time to time where it's like, yeah, it's a 4, but more in the filler variety, because it doesn't feel right to kind of compare Booze Barons to, say, A Feast for Odin, for example. I said that because of the ease of teaching, this game was really solid, that it's a building block for other social deduction games, because a lot of times you can have social deduction games ruined by people who don't get the concept and they just they're like, oh, I get the mechanics, and they just kind of run through the mechanics. Alex gave it a 3, and looking back, I have not played this in the last year. Gents, have you ever played this game?
Nope.
We've talked before about whether or not actually getting a play of these games again, or rather not getting a play, is reason enough to drop it in the score. And it's not typically. I mean, I'll stand by this. It's a filler 4. I think it's really solid. I think that these lighter social deduction games have not come to the table as much in general for us. I mean, as much as I love One Night Ultimate Werewolf, but even those haven't come out. So I think it's just a matter of play groups have kind of moved away from this. But yeah, I'd still rate it a filler 4. I think it's a really solid game. All right, well, that's going to do it for a Dukes Double-Take of Booze Barons. This week, we're retheming games, but first, a quick word about our sponsor. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to tell you about Colosseum, Emperor's Edition. So I'll be honest, I did try and write an ad mimicking Mark Antony's speech in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, but boy, iambic pentameter is really hard. So instead, let me just tell you about Colosseum. Tasty Minstrel Games has been fulfilling this Kickstarter edition, and it's available for pre-order currently. In it, you're running a Roman Colosseum trying to put on the best show to please the crowd, senators, and Caesar himself. It's got auctions, trading, and some set collection. This new edition has updated art and components with amazing gameplay to boot. Seriously, this game is really good. Go check out Colosseum and check out Tasty Minstrel Games' other amazing titles at playtmg.com. All right, so discussion topic this week, we've got Aaron and Quinten and Aaron, other ways to rearrange those words or names. And like you guys mentioned at the very top of the episode, you guys put a lot of emphasis on theme on your show, right? That's a big focus for you guys. Mm-hmm. So we talked and we said, well, what should we talk about here, the discussion topic? And it was, hey, let's have some people pitch some games that they want to see some re-themes of. And
Yes.
there were no shortage of contributions from our guild, from your guild, from Twitter, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, let's dive right into that, shall we?
Let's shall.
Heck yeah, man. I've been thinking about them all day.
Have you really?
Well, because the two of you were busy all day.
Sure.
Quinten cramming as many Feast for Odin plays in as he could, and Sean, you doing your actual job.
Yep.
So for me, I was hanging out with my kids all day on spring break, and I was like, as these came in, and I kept adding them to the to the document here, I was like, oh yeah, how would I retheme that one? So I've got some things to think about and pitch.
All right, well, I'm interested to hear him. So let's start with BJ from Board Game Gumbo. He said, how about Agricola, this this medieval farming game? There's got to be a better way to theme that, because that's a pretty boring theme.
Yeah, literally anything.
Okay, so I thought of, in our latest episode, Lindsay complained or wanted to see more dystopian themes in games. And so I was like, totally, it fits into this, because here's why. Instead of feeding your workers, you are feeding your people misinformation. And if they're not fed enough misinformation, they revolt, right?
I like that.
Okay.
And then like the other things, like you're building up your resources because you're running your country. So you're
But just the minimum. You want only the minimum stuff.
well, for the regular people, yes, of course.
For you, it's the awesome stuff.
You're just trying, but you need a variety of things because you need to show your people that you're working hard for them and bringing them great new technologies. So you might be like, instead of jobs, you're hiring people that will help you do things, like cabinet level people in your government. You're buying cool technologies and misinformation, propaganda machines, and cool technology, weapons, and all that kind of stuff. Does that work? Instead of cows, you're getting tanks.
And the tanks breed with one another? I'm on board.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they're AI robots in the future.
It's quite the sight to behold.
Yeah, no, I think Agricola is an incredibly boring theme. How many times do we need a game that's about European or Mediterranean medieval farming? So yeah, I'll play that version instead. So I expect all the print and play files uploaded within the next week or two.
I'm on it. I'm on spring break. I got time on my hands.
Spring break, woo!
What about you, Sean? What did you think?
I actually had the exact same idea that Aaron did. I mean, almost word for word, verbatim.
Oh, brother.
So, I mean, I was gonna say, Jinx, you owe me a Coke, but I didn't quite get it out in time.
But that's not good lawyer talk.
No. So I want to see Agricola : Star Trek, because literally every one of my ideas is going to be Star Trek.
I'm on board with this. Let's go.
No, not really. Not really. Oh, wait, maybe that's where BJ was going in his episode title suggestion, which will be a spoiler for later. Never mind. Okay.
He also suggested Colosseum as one. I have an idea for this, but anybody else want to
Thanks for saving me. Thanks for saving me, Aaron. Yeah, let's hear you. Let's hear your idea, Aaron.
Okay, so here's my idea, because you're putting on a spectacle in Colosseum, right? Like you're putting on this big thing. So you know what's a huge spectacle? Like an 80s hair metal band.
Yes,
So-
I'm on board.
So you're running shows, like you're having Iron Maiden and Kiss and all these different. So you got to buy fireworks. You have to have trained animals or
animatronic robots,
animatronic like dragons and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, have a big Eddie.
Yeah, you've got zip line setups and stage crafting. And
What level is the big platform that the drum's on that lift up
The
and floats
gyroscopes?
over the crowd? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, those are all things that you could add. And then instead of the Roman, whoever is it Caesar that's coming around and visiting you? The emperor,
there's the emperor and the senators and
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just have record label people. Maybe the president or something is coming to your concert.
the president.
The president with his ripped off suit sleeves.
Yeah,
and-
totally.
It's like it's like Ronald Reagan, and he's like, I can't do a Ronald Reagan impression, so I don't even know why I tried. Let me think of a president I can do an impression of. Nope, none of them. Okay, great.
Mr. Gorbachev.
Tear down this wall. So that was my idea for that one. I think that one works really well.
I enjoy the
Coliseum.
rock concert. Yeah.
And you're just different like companies that are running events.
Yeah. I was thinking the big thing, like the big issue a lot of people have with these like Agricolas and Colosseums and that kind of thing is it's just a bland palette and a overdone theme. So I was kind of actually in the same boat as you for like actually where I want something that's just bright and flashy and something that catches your eye but then has solid mechanics underneath it. And we know Colosseum already has those solid mechanics. Agricola can go get like thrown in the dumpster fire. I don't care about that. But Colosseum has a good solid base to it already. You just need to jazz that up a little bit. And by jazz, I mean Twisted Sister that up a little bit. And you're going to be good to go.
Like 80s pink neon colors. It would be amazing.
I'm so excited for Dinosaur Island, if for nothing else, the bright colors. And I think you hit that one like totally on the head, Aaron.
So Mike Risley made some mention about Pret-a-Porter, the kind of clothing themed. Is it like a runway game? I've never actually played it.
It's like a fashion themed game, like big fashion runways and stuff like that. Yeah.
High fashion.
Thank you.
That's the one you're looking for.
So
the weird clothes you'd never wear.
Yeah.
My understanding, Aaron, is that there's the Portal's coming out with something different.
Yeah, I heard that they're retheming it to be like a video game company type of thing or something along the lines of like computer programming or those kinds of things. And so I think you're creating and releasing video games instead of creating and releasing fashion trends.
Can you be like EA and just churn out garbage but make huge money doing it?
I don't know how the game actually plays. The three of us have not played this game before. I did have an idea for this one, though, because I read the description on BGG, and you do, like, runway shows, right?
Yeah.
And so instead of doing fashion, I thought, what about your dog breeders? And so you have to get sponsorships and you have like, because there's a bunch of different things you meet with people, I guess, in the game or something to make connections, and then you do like these shows. So instead of doing runway shows, you have like dog agility like shows and stuff like that. I think that would work great.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
People love dogs.
You could have like a nice cartoony artist for that. And
sure. Or like a
whatever you want.
One, whatever.
Or someone who just really loves dogs. I was thinking for Pret-a-Porter, that you could do it's all these high fashion companies and stuff, right? And you're developing your lines of clothing. Yeah, whatever. Clothing, great. If I want clothing, I'll play Rococo. What I was thinking is that we could put some violence in this because why not?
Because it's America?
I wasn't going to go there, but... So anyways, so what you could do is you are 1920s New York streets, and you are the mob, and you have to lay your claim on these streets and the shops around it, and you have to put on a show to show that you're the biggest, baddest bully on the block so that you can control these areas. And you can have all these shops in line, and you need to get rid of the other guys, the other players. And I think there's something there for that.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. So Tor Iver Wilhelmsen says, how about taking Lords of Waterdeep and instead of the D&D theme, make it a farming retheme, which is kind of the opposite. But I'll be perfectly honest. As far as Lords of Waterdeep goes, it's a pretty, like, you could easily slap on an Agricola theme to Lords of Waterdeep, right? Like,
yes.
It's a valid, or it's a fine attempt at a worker placement game. Like, mechanically, I think it's really solid, but as far as thematic connection to D&D...
there is none.
To Forbidden Realms, like,
Forgotten Realms.
What did I say? Forbidden Realms? Forgotten Realms.
We knew what you meant.
Good.
It's okay. That's why your show is only sometimes
yes.
playing games. I liked his comment there. He said where instead of using like orange cubes as warriors, orange cubes are carrots. So like, I guess instead of placing your workers, you're planting your vegetables.
Yeah,
in
the white one, the
locations.
clerics can be cauliflower.
So really, it's not just a farming; it's a community garden game, right? So like you
can be a whole bunch of communal hippies.
And then the what are the blue skulls? The
Corruption.
The corruption is like you fighting with the other people. Maybe there's like
that's the outside world trying to come in to ruin your nice socialist commune.
Yes, yeah, the
capitalist pigs. That's why they're blue skulls. Because capitalism's like the blue side and socialism's the red side. Wait, that's the other way around. They're the other way for the American. Never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
In Canada, conservatives are blue and the liberals are red. That's why Quinten's saying that.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
It's the opposite in your country. So you can just...
Sorry, that was all wrong. I'm sorry.
Figure out a way to edit that together.
I'll figure something out. So Vero says, hey, what about Castles of Burgundy? Why has this game never been rethemed? And he'd like to see some sort of space station game. And I think that makes a perfect amount of sense. So you think of a game like Among the Stars, where you're drafting these different square cards to build your space station. And here you would be playing Castles of Burgundy, right? But you have a predetermined space station. Like your board is kind of your blueprint, and you have to fill things in according to your blueprint. And certainly this would allow for some, at least slightly more interesting and appealing artwork, because Castle Burgundy is kind of terrible. But I'd rather have some sort of cool space theme. I think it's pretty solid.
Hey Sean, are you ready for this?
Let's hear it.
So you know how the mats for Castles of Burgundy, they're like circular-ish.
Sure.
You could easily kind of adjust the shape a little bit and make it into a Borg cube.
Oh.
Or sphere ship, and then you have your space station, sure, but you are trying to you're trying to make the most efficient Borg ship, because they're all about the efficiency, right?
Oh, absolutely. You don't have to tell me. I know.
Oh, this. I know that you know.
I'm sorry, you both have to tell me because I don't know crap.
Get out of here, Aaron. Sean and I are having a moment. So Castles of Burgundy, this would be perfect because, as you're grabbing...
Also, sorry, it's the spaceship of Burgundy, right?
Yeah, okay, I'll give it to you. That's a good one.
I had to do it. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, boy.
Oh, dear. Borg ships and stuff. You get built like the things to make it efficient. I'm done. I can't follow up with that. That was just too good.
Right? I felt pretty good about that one.
J. May Det. Is that right? Am I saying this right?
J. May Detroit.
Oh, J. May Detroit. Okay, sure. So he said, what about Hansa Teutonica? So this is a game about building connections. And the first thing that sprung to my mind was there's not really any games about social networking, right? Like it's such a pervasive part of our culture now. And the board game industry hasn't touched on that at all. So I almost feel like this would just be an aspect of that, of like spreading like viral memes, because the idea of a meme is that that's viral. It's a virus that's trying to spread as much as possible, and I feel like that would be a similar way to kind of play Hansa Teutonica. I don't know. I feel like Hansa Teutonica is such a dry, themeless Euro that it just seems like almost anything can work, and I'm not sure how you would necessarily intensify and incorporate that theme into it. But as far as kind of like making connections and spreading out your influence, that could work. I don't know. What do you think?
And then your options for box cover are either the dude Craig Kilberger or whatever Zuckerberg.
Oh.
Kilberger's the good one. Zuckerberg is just sitting on the cover, so another angry-faced person on the cover. or taking the cover and turning it into a meme itself.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I think that would work.
You could have like the cat sipping coffee and reading his newspaper,
but hanging behind the guy, like the cranky guy.
I should get Hans Teutonica. I was actually thinking about if you had to build a nervous system for an animal or a person or whatever, and you have to make the connections for everything and make it kind of like a medical themed one.
That's interesting.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense too.
I've never actually played Hansa Teutonica, so that's another one like, this could sort of work maybe.
Robert Johnson said Kerplunk, And then he said, "What could those marbles represent?"
My hopes and dreams. Nailed it.
I was thinking about a nuclear reactor.
Ooh.
And you're removing, I don't know what you would remove from a nuclear reactor, like sticks, but you don't want that nuclear reactor, like, atoms to hit the floor.
You have only the loosest understanding of nuclear power.
I was just like, yeah, like you're working in a facility and you're doing, it's like a minute scientific. I'm sorry, did I break you?
So Kerblunk's the one with like, you have like all of these different like sticks through the cylinder and there's like marbles on top and you're you're removing them, right? That's Kerplunk?
Yeah, totally. That is exactly what Kerplunk is. And so every time you drop a marble through, you get radiation poisoning and you die a little bit.
I'd play that.
That is so special.
Rob Tarr says, what about merchants and marauders? He was kind of thinking a Mad Max kind of theme.
That would work perfect.
That's already being done in Wasteland Express delivery service.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Then I guess our job is done.
There you go.
Thank you, John Kilmore and the Fleeples.
I'm not a fan of merchants and marauders. I'm not a fan.
Get out.
What?
No, Merchants and Marauders is a treasure.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you're free to disagree with me. That's fine.
All right, cool. I'll settle for that then.
Is there another theme that you would like equally as much?
I do like the idea of a post-apocalyptic one where you're like traveling around, you know, there's different nations that are not nations, but like different factions that are controlling the different areas. But again, I'm pretty sure that Wasteland Express Delivery Service is bringing a lot of that stuff. They have factions, they have you traveling around upgrading your van death truck thing that you can fight people. So I mean, yes, and that's why I'm excited for that game.
Mm-hmm. I love the mission cards that you get in Merchants and Marauders though, because it adds that little bit of story to it.
You could put that into other games, like how Merchants and Marauders and Zaya are very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking of Indiana Jones. And you're running around collecting treasure that you then need to bring to the museum. You have all your adventure going on, that all sorts of ridiculous hijinks. I mean, sorry, Indiana Jones isn't hijinks, but
Nazis
crazy
everywhere.
Yes.
Crystal Skull was hijinks, but
nope. Get out again. Get out again.
He's saying that was bad.
Oh, good.
yeah, I'm saying it was hijinks.
I heard Crystal Skulls and just shut down immediately.
Thank you for listening to the words I'm saying. So another one that Vero came up with was, what about Rococo? He's not crazy about the tailoring, dress and suit making theme. I'm fine with it, but I think you had an idea, Aaron.
I do personally think Rococo's fantastic. I'm on board with the tailoring theme, but if we got to change it up, like the main thing is you are setting people up to look good at the ball and then running these balls sort of, and you've got that kind of thing going on. What if you instead were catering these parties? So like big parties, it could be still set in the same era, or it could be, current day times or whatever. And you, instead of your deck of workers, you've got deck of catering people. So you got your prep chef that's getting stuff ready. You've got your like head chef that is like running things and can do way more stuff. And you're running these parties. Maybe you have to get decorations for these parties. Maybe instead of just a caterer, you're an event planner. And so you've got caterers and you've got, other things, decorators and those kinds of things.
I was thinking, let's make this even flashier. Right? Because that's what the people want. They want the flash.
Yeah, they do.
And again, Rococo, you said, it's a solid game. It's got the good mechanic base. So make it a crazy cuisine theme game for monsters. And it's all like cartoony monsters, and you're making all like the ridiculous food that a monster would eat. Like you have like a bowl full of tentacles and eyeballs, or, just like crazy silly things like that, just for silliness sake. Because I like that kind of thing.
All right. That I'm totally.
You can't tell me you wouldn't love to see bright colored, many armed monsters mowing down your food.
I can't tell you that.
No, yes, no.
Or whatever.
Wait, what's the right answer?
I agree with your statement, probably.
Oh dear, let's just get through this.
I concur. I concur to the first part. End of the second part. I concur all around.
Just all the concurs.
Let's wrap this up with Jesse Metcalf. Rather than kind of pitch something or suggest something that we do, he talked about Deep Space Nine, taking Dead of Winter and throwing Star Trek Deep Space Nine on top of it. So he said, what if Plaid Hat Games did a Crossroads game for DS9? DS9 could be facing an overall threat with smaller crises occurring every turn. The players would control Deep Space Nine crew and have individual goals, perhaps even being a Cardassian or Dominion betrayer. There could be Crossroads cards, similar to Dead of Winter. The locations would be various places on Deep Space Nine, for example, the Promenade, Docking Bay, Upper Pylons. And if you just wanted to reskin, turn the zombies into Borg, Dominion, Cardassians. But I think a better overall theme could be adapted. And yeah, like I said before, I'm all for, taking Star Trek and just doing whatever with it. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm into this idea too.
I'm almost done. I'm just finishing up season 6 of Deep Space Nine for the, third or fourth time.
Man, I haven't watched DS9 in so long. I'm going to do that again.
There are some incredibly bad episodes just leading up to the Dominion Wars, but there's also some just really good episodes as far as just exploring the concept of the occupation force of the Cardassians and the resistance of the Bajorans and all of the, it's pretty amazing. Aaron, you still with us?
You didn't see it, but I yawned very largely while you were talking there.
Because Aaron's a heathen, but that's fine.
Yeah, I think that Deep Space Nine would make a good Dead of Winter Crossroads style game. Absolutely. Wholeheartedly. Even Babylon 5. Oh man, that's a great theme.
That's also one I've never watched.
Oh boy. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I don't think that someone could watch Babylon 5 now. I don't think it holds up as well. I think it's probably pretty terrible for someone to start watching it now. But I love it, and I've watched it 5 or 6 times through.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, there's already a game for Battlestar Galactica, but this also seems like it would be ripe for the picking.
Sure. Oh, definitely. I mean, I think that was kind of one of my first thoughts when Dead of Winter came out, was just how similar it felt in a lot of ways. Not in derivative ways, but just in certain ways to BSG. So
yeah.
All right. Well, gents, any final thoughts on some reskinning, retheming of board games?
No, I think we're doing pretty good here.
To be honest, I think that our industry is getting good with theming and meshing theme and mechanics. I think we're getting better at it. I think you're seeing more of a focus on that, and designers are playing to that and trying to bring the two ideas together more. And I think while you do see a lot of the same themes being used, like generic fantasy or trading in the Mediterranean or whatever, you are seeing unique themes that are coming through, like the networks, right? Where you're running a TV station, or just these, Pret-a-Porter is a super unique theme, I think. You're running a fashion, a fashion industry company or whatever. So, I mean, there are companies that are trying to do cool stuff, and those are the companies that I look to when we want to do reviews for our show, when we want to, get excited about games. That's what we like. So I like seeing it. And so it's fun to joke around like this, but there's lots of good companies that are doing good work out there too.
Yeah, I think any time that you see a game come out with an interesting theme, that's more likely to kind of pique your interest rather than just, oh, here's another, stereotypical Mediterranean trading game, So if you take the time to think of that really unique theme, I think it gives you a little bit more, helps you stand out more in the marketplace.
Yeah, like that food truck champion that Daily Magic has had on Kickstarter. I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. That's unique.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's wrap up this episode. Thanks to everyone out there in the guild for the contributions. Speaking of contributions, see what I did there? Let's talk about our runners-up for the episode titles. So we've got our top 6. Here are the remaining 5. Jimmy DM90 suggested Yeast for Odin, since we're talking about Booze Barons as well as Feast for Odin. And then if you guys
fantastic.
Yeah, it was very good. Very, very punny. I enjoyed that. Well, I mean, isn't that what this is just a bunch of puns that people are doing, and they're doing it very well often.
Absolutely. In defense of puns, you gotta love it. All right.
Steve O'Rourke, which this one was probably my runner-up, and that is Runeshine. So the combination of moonshine and the runes from the Feast for Odin there. Very, very smart. Very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Very clever.
I mean, he is the name father, so he's got to bring it home.
He is, and that kind of ties in with the All-Father, Odin, right?
Oh, there you go.
Very good, very good.
He already had a leg up. Joshua Costa says, buy Odin's beard, but beard is BEER''D. Which I enjoy also.
Yeah, I mean, you're combining Vikings and drinking. There's a lot of good stuff.
Just a match made in Valhalla right there.
Yeah. This one was my suggestion for the winner, and that's Jason Lee's, and it's Aaron and Quinten make bathtub gin and go whaling, but call it fishing.
That sounds pretty accurate, actually.
Like, yeah, we do a lot of stupid stuff.
I like how it's long and rambling and doesn't really tell you what it's about.
It's mostly like our podcast.
Yeah, it's perfect.
All right, and then the last one is BJ from Board Game Gumbo, and all right, it's Encounter at Farpoint. BJ, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea whatsoever. I don't know how this fits in. Basically, Encounter at Farpoint was the pilot episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where they encountered Q for the first time. Well, it's where they did anything for the first time because it was the first episode. But they encountered Q? So I'm like, okay, so it's the first time meeting Q? So is that supposed to be Quinten? Like, I'm completely blanking on how that relates to A Feast for Odin or Booze Barons.
I mean, I am a all-powerful being of the universe.
Sure.
Hey, can you use some of that all-powerful being to do more work for my freaking podcast, please?
You know that you don't want me to do that.
That's true.
So yeah, I'm confused. So BJ, this made the top 6 just because I'm confused. But I'll always appreciate a reference to a Star Trek Next Generation episode. So that's definitely a thing. So guys, if people want to reach out to you or find your podcast or interact with you in any way, what are some of the best ways to do that?
Well, we have a website, boardsalivepodcast.com, so you can check out all of the many, many shows we have done on there. We are very active on Twitter. You can come talk to us there at boardsalive. We have a Facebook that is not overly used or messaged on, but you can check it out at facebook.com/boardsalive. We have a Board Game Geek Guild where some of these wonderful people suggested some ideas as well, and that's number 2002. So yeah, those are all the best places to find us.
Ooh, six guilds ahead of us.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yep.
Too bad our total guild members is not ahead of you. We did start. Didn't we start like right before you guys? Didn't we start like a couple months before you started doing shows?
I think so, because what number are you guys on?
71. We're on the third. We're just about to end our third season.
So yeah, if you figure every other week, that would put you at 142 to our 136, right? I mean, I know there's some like off weeks here and there. But yeah, so yeah, I mean like a month and a half, 2 months, right? Crazy. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. Like I said, I definitely wanted to have you guys on because you guys are a lot of fun, and I'm glad we got to spend this time together, just the three of us.
Just the three of us. I mean, to be honest, I wish that Alex could have been here too.
That's fine. That's fine.
We both do actually love your show and listen to your show. We didn't just say that at the start to make you feel good so that you'd treat us nicely for the last couple hours. So we definitely think that you guys are absolutely fantastic. You're doing the gaming lord's work, I guess, in this hobby.
Okay.
I don't know where to go with this now. So thank you.
Yahweh? Like, I don't know.
Anyway. It's getting late for you, man. I'm sorry.
Guys, I'm so tired right now, but I'm happy to be staying up late hanging out with you guys. Because, listen, seriously, I do enjoy your guys' show. I listen to your guys' show regularly. I think I've probably listened to every episode.
I'm so sorry for you.
At least since... I think I started listening to you guys, I don't know, probably like in the 20s? The 20s or 30s?
Wow.
Yeah.
Some deep cuts right there. Some bad audio deep cuts right there.
Yeah, feel free to not go back, everyone else. If you've never listened to us before, listen to the new stuff, and you can kind of work backwards if you want. But at a certain point, it'll nosedive.
It's diminishing returns at a certain point.
So yeah, Aaron, if you want to say hi to Lindsay for me.
I would prefer not to get kicked in the nuts when I get home, so I will not mention I was talking to you.
Oh, well, work it in there somewhere and just let her know that my nemesis fire burns brightly. Is that a thing?
Maybe when I go home tonight and I come to bed, I'll just bring Castles of Burgundy with me, so in the morning she just wakes up and it's sitting next to her.
That'd be good.
Well, that wraps up episode 136, Strange BrUwe. Thank you, Patrick Hillier. And Sean's a little tired. He's going to have a nap here. So, Quinten, why don't you take us out?
Thank you so much for listening to the Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy and in the Ducal Embassy in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, on March 20th, 2017. Our theme music, and by our I mean their theme music, was provided by Carbohydro M and his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board game podcasts, check out dicetowernetwork.com. And for all of the latest in the Duchy, go to dukesofdice.com.
Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice, join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild, find us on Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Thanks to our sponsors, Arcane Wonders and Tasty Minstrel Games. Check out their awesome titles at arcanewonders.com and playtmg.com. We'll see you back here next week, and by we'll, I mean Sean will see you here next week. Until then, as Alex would say, game on!